Hello, everybody. Super excited for this week's episode of Dreadful Talk. Episode 15. Super proud of that milestone. Thanks for everybody that's, tuned in along the way. Make sure to go subscribe on YouTube. And I'm about to get this week's guest joined on. Let's get him on and then I'll introduce him. Hey, what
Hey,
up, bro?
what's
Hey,
up, man?
you might turn that phone sideways, brother?
Yeah, bro, let's do it. There we go. How's
Oh,
that?
other way. My bad. Other way.
We
There we
good?
go.
There we go.
There we go, my guy.
Nice. We're
So
working.
yeah. For everybody watching, this is my guest, Patrick Murray, and he is host of his own podcast, Today in the NBA. I'm a big fan of that. You can find it on Spotify. Go on, follow that. It's come with that hot NBA content, and spoiler alert. That's what we're going to be discussing today, man. I love me some hoops. I hardly ever get to talk about hoops on the podcast, and this is the perfect man to talk hoops with. My guy Patrick Murray. What's up, brother?
Hey, man, it's such a pleasure to be on with you, man. Thank you so much for bringing me in. Really excited to talk about some basketball. And the day is perfect for it, man. We got two huge games tonight. Things are starting to
Yeah,
wrap up and really take shape for these last couple series. Couldn't have
I
picked a better
know,
day to get
man.
this going, man.
Denver's just the seven game goons. Just all their series go to 7 games. I think it's like that's a real stat. Every series that Jamal and Jokic have been in have gone to game 7. I believe is a real stat. It's fucking
I
nut.
I think you're right, bro. I think I saw Jokic's post game after Game 6, and she was like, "Yeah, these last two, you've been down 3-1 in these past couple series going to Game 7." He's like, "Actually, it's the past four because the last two in last year's playoffs were the same way." So, young
Yeah,
Bucks getting that experience early on these tough games.
yeah, for real though. I mean, you really kind of want that, right? Because I mean, they're getting like years and years worth of playoff games of experience in a couple of years. They're kind of getting that speed course. But
Yeah, getting
yeah,
their
for
feet in the
sure.
fire.
Yeah, definitely, man. So where are you at nowadays? You in OKC? You in Norman?
Yeah, so I'm staying in Oklahoma City. Moved up here about 2 years ago, working a job at a restaurant up here, and just taking that in stride. Obviously, quarantine was a setback for everybody, but
Yeah,
just
right.
gotten started back on that, and just working on this podcast. Got it started about 5 weeks ago now, and
Hell
just
yeah,
trying to
man.
keep up with that and get those recorded as much as I can.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? It's fun, and I'm really enjoying it as well, man.
I'm hooked.
Yeah, me too. I'm hooked, and I'm hooked on your show, man. I listen, like I legit listen, and I'm a big fan. Yeah, Today in the NBA, everybody check it out on Spotify. There's other ways to get it. I listen on Spotify. I'm a big Spotify guy,
Yeah,
so
you can find it on Apple Music and SoundCloud as well. If you're not doing the subscribe thing, you can get on SoundCloud, find it. I try to make sure it's as accessible as possible. I know you're doing the YouTube thing. I'm going to try to get there soon, man. I'm trying to get this video portion created as well eventually.
yeah, man. YouTube's a blessing and a curse, man. There's a few things that have been a pain in the ass. I just honestly like that's how I consume most of my podcasts is on YouTube. So it's just like the natural move for me because like
Yeah.
that's how I watch them. So I'm like I'm sure there's other people out there watching them too. But I'm actually thinking about making like an audio version, like going back and ripping the audio because I know that those like a lot of those audio platforms are booming. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think it's just about being as many places as possible for
Yep.
sure.
Spreading your wings, trying to get out there and get those roots established.
Yeah, definitely, man. It seems like a lot of the homies have moved up to OKC. That's dope. I feel like I probably would have if I would have stayed. I feel like, Norman, you can only, drive them same streets so many times.
Oh man, you know it. It's crazy every once in a while. So I graduated from OU in May, and so since then I haven't been spending much time there. But when I do go down there, it's kind of a strange feeling, man. It's just weird going back into your hometown, and there's been some stuff going on that have been just strange stuff in Norman, just out,
I've heard. Yeah, man,
out of
I've
pocket
heard.
stuff.
Yeah, man, it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to be the place that we grew up in, even though we're not even that old. Like you always hear like old folks saying that, but here we are saying that. Like I feel
Yep.
really ain't the same place we grew up in. I feel like I haven't been back since I left, bro. I haven't
Really?
literally not once, and like I'm not like necessarily like proud of that. It's mainly been like a money thing, but like I left in August of 2016 and haven't been back. So
Wow. It's
yeah,
been a
man,
minute.
I know it's totally different, man, but I know I will one of these days. Like I've been saying that for 4 years now, but like I know it's gonna happen. It's gonna be dope when it happens too. So, but
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, definitely good to see you. Good to, definitely good to see you doing your thing with your podcast. As I'm a
Thanks,
big
man.
fan, and I was listening to your podcast, and I know by listening to it, you're a big fan of what's going on in the bubble and just the quality of basketball, and like you were saying that it's essentially the best basketball we've ever gotten, or right?
Yeah, I agree, man. You take so many components for granted with what basketball or sports has been prior to this. And I think that there are some small subtleties about the bubble that have been really cool. I think a lot of the concerns were like, what's it going to be like without the fans right on top of you and home court advantages and things like that. But from a fan's perspective at home, it doesn't feel like there's a lack of sound. You get the piped in noise and that's kind of cool. But I think also it's just quiet enough where you can still get a little bit more personal interaction with the players and the coaches and the
Yeah.
referees, which is cool. And then the spacing is another thing. So the spacing around the court, you have a little bit more space to work with under the basket. So as guys drive to the hoop, they don't have to necessarily pump the brakes as they're, coming
Well,
back
because
off.
the cameramen and stuff like that,
Exactly.
you know what? That's one point I'll say I haven't even considered that, and that makes a lot of damn sense. That's, yeah, no, very good point. Yeah, because
But
those
just,
cameramen take up a few, 3, 4 feet of space in in the little landing zone.
yeah.
That's a great point for
And
sure.
same for out of bounds too. When you're doing inbounds passes and stuff like that, you saw it in what was that, game five, I think, game
Of the
five or six.
Raptors,
Yeah, with Kyle
yeah,
Lowry over Taco. I mean, I don't know if that's something you could do because he kind of gets a little bit of extra of a wind up to be able to get that ball up over where he may not have
yeah,
had that right up on the sidelines typically. So just stuff
no,
like that. And just the focus also too, guys just being able to, really just focus on one thing in basketball. They're not traveling and anything like that. So it's made it a great product.
yeah, man, and so like me, I got the Beefy Boys podcast where we cover MMA. And it's like the UFC was really kind of the first ones to put on stuff during COVID,
Yeah, Fight
and
Island.
yeah, Fight Island, and even before that at Vegas at the Apex, and so that's where I really got the first taste of sports without fans and how it impacts, and it does impact, especially like in MMA. But so that's where I kind of got my first intro to it, and then I believe did baseball start up before basketball? I think.
Yeah.
But see, I think baseball they freaking missed it. Like baseball with the cardboard cutouts and like the extra piped in crowd noise, and
Yeah.
it's weird, man. It's like extra. Like I feel like it's like a Call of Duty type of like I don't even know. That's like dystopian weird shit. But I feel like basketball's got it right. Like I feel like they've done a good job of it for
I
sure.
think so too, man. No doubt.
Yeah, definitely, man. So we're both Thunder fans. We'll get that, just
Yes,
off the
sir.
rip. A little disclaimer there. We're some OKC boys. But so I want to start off talking about the Thunder season. One of the more interesting Thunder seasons I can remember, and that's saying something because even though they
Yeah.
have a short history, it's been freaking action packed, jam packed, full of memories and special teams. And I feel like this team is right up there with them for probably different reasons. But man, what a season!
It was a great season, man, and you take a lot into account with that. It felt like, up until probably the Rocket series, that this was a team that just played a totally different style of basketball. I think you have to give a ton of credit to Chris Paul coming
Yeah,
in, buying into everything. Before the season, so many people wanted to pretty much write off Oklahoma City. That's kind of been beaten to death. But really, a lot of things were about Chris Paul. I think a lot of people didn't expect him to be here with the trade until the trade deadline. Is he going
yeah,
to be able to commit? He had a kind of a sour reputation coming off his time in Houston. So that
yeah.
was really cool to see. And then Billy Donovan was great, throughout most of the year. Uh, for me, as we got into the playoffs, that's a little bit different. But the regular season in general, just the way this roster played together, that three-headed
Yeah,
monster with the point guards was awesome. A little disappointed Schroeder didn't win Sixth Man of the Year, but he was great this season as well. And
yeah. Montrezl Harrell, like I honestly, I could have named like three other guys I would have rather seen win it besides Montrez. And I'm not hating on Montrez, but And it doesn't help. It's like hindsight 2020, but he's getting really exposed in this Nuggets series, and it's just like
Yes.
putting the exclamation mark on like the doubts I already had on his Six Man of the Year trophy. Like the little moment, with Lou handing him the trophy, that was cute and everything. But
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily think, yeah, he deserved it. But yeah, I wanted to touch on that, man. The three guards. I don't think an NBA team, including the Rockets, have utilized a three-guard lineup better than the Thunder did this year. I had so many question marks. Like, I'll be real, man. I was so out on this Thunder team. Like, this
Yeah.
roster construction seemed like you auto-drafted on a snake draft on 2K or something. Like, it seemed like mismatched pieces. It seemed like too much of one thing, not enough of another. But I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why everything kind of shaped into form, and it was like kind of a perfect storm. The development of the two unexpected rookies that kind of had nobody had expectations out of. The three guard lineup actually kind of this was the year of the small ball more than ever. So like
Yeah.
if there
Oh yeah.
was ever a year, if there was ever a year that let that rip with three guards, it was probably this year. So I think that was kind of a luck stroke of coincidence, that kind of worked to our favor as well. I thought that Chris Paul was just going to be kind of checked out, just cashing checks. Like I'll be real, which I guess that's my bad because Chris Paul's, the definition of a professional, and I shouldn't have really probably cast him in that light. But like I don't know, man. I had so many doubts coming into the season, and then just like one by one by one by one, those little questions just were answered, or those boxes were checked, and it just shaped into form real nice, like in a unique way.
Yeah, I think you're so right. You're spot on. I think a lot of that too this season, and maybe this is why we felt this way. It's hard to say, but for so many years, probably since the second season of Oklahoma City, or the year that we lost to the Lakers in the first round, where we took
Yeah.
them, I think, to 6 or 7, the expectations have been so high with KD and Russ and everything that transpired until, Russ was by himself, and then with PG and Carmelo Anthony.
And I think that Oklahoma sports fan mentality rolls over from OU. I
Oh,
really
man.
think so. Like, because Oklahoma's fan base is new to basketball, like whether we like to
Yeah.
admit it or not. Like, I didn't really watch basketball until we got the Thunder, and I know a lot of people can say that too. But like so what I'm saying is like, yeah, like Oklahoma's fan base is like primarily college football, and then in the wintertime they come over to basketball. And so just that expectation of championship or bust that is totally kind of unrealistic in professional sports. I feel like Oklahoma Thunder
Yeah.
fans, we really do kind of like have that kind of college sports fan mentality, that permanent dynasty mentality.
You're so right, man. And what's crazy is I think a lot of other programs, or excuse me, franchises do, but in all of sports, you could probably count on maybe one hand plus one or two fingers, like that for decades have been consistent contenders. So that's a luxury a lot of teams and franchises aren't afforded in any sport. But Oklahoma City, to kind of cap off what we're talking about with this is like I said, their expectations this season were so low.
Yeah.
But that's okay for me. And the way they exceeded them, they certainly did. I think it's fair to say they overachieved to a
Yeah.
degree. I definitely think this team had some talent on it, but definitely some deficiencies as well. I think, like you said, they maximized that three-guard lineup that a lot of teams weren't able to do. And when you really take into account with each of those guys, none of them are just like lights out shooters. Chris Paul, easily the best of the three, but SGA still kind of becoming himself as a player.
He's a
Schroeder,
unique player. He's a weird player. He's so weird. Like I cannot literally one of my questions I have for you was like an SGA comp because I legitimately can't think of one. He's so weird.
I couldn't think of one either. When you sent me that, I was like, golly, man, this is such a tough one to think about. I had to do a little bit of research, but like his body type, number one, a 6'6", probably sub 100 or 200-pound guy that's a primary ball handler in the league is very atypical. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but you look at his
Who kind of
game.
comes to mind is just off top, and I'm not like this may sound like a diss, but it's not Sean Livingston. He kind of reminds me of like a
Yeah,
younger, less injured Sean Livingston, just the body type. I don't know.
yes. I like that too. Sean was a little taller, and so he had a little bit more like at the rim ability. but I think SGA replaces that with a little bit more of his shooting and his range. But
Yeah,
when they
better.
when they their handle and the way they kind of operate through an offense, I think especially early Sean before he blew his knee out,
Yeah.
definitely some
The
similarities.
patience, the
Yes.
patience, the patience. Yeah.
Hmm.
And man, I feel like Chris Paul took SGA to like floater school because like I feel like SGA's floater, his runners and his floaters just improved
Hmm.
so much this year. And maybe I'm just giving credit to Chris Paul instead of SGA, but I don't know, man. Like, cause Chris Paul's always mastered that floater, and I feel like he maybe taught him a little, veteran secret or two because his floaters were money this year.
Totally agree. And, again, as we kind of continue this narrative, is Chris Paul, so much credit has to be given to him for the way that this roster moving forward, not even just this season, but, it's looking like Chris Paul is going to probably move on from Oklahoma City. He'll be
Yeah,
able to probably dictate a lot of the way that trade goes out, but Oklahoma City will have the final say and everything. But the impact that'll be lasting, at least on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a couple of the other these rookies, and then Schroeder, I think it's going to be a long-term thing, and I think that they'll look back on that, and that'll be a moment for them where they'll be grateful for that, similar to ways that guys in the previous or in the past have been. And I don't think that comes to my mind is like a Steve Nash and Goran Dragic. So when he was in
oh yeah,
Phoenix, he was his backup, and it was a little
yep.
bit different style of play nowadays. Nowadays, they'd probably play together, and Steve would probably be averaging way more threes. And story for another time. But the way that those guys, Dragic sat behind him and learned and established his game similar to the way Steve played, that's how I kind of see this SGA and Chris Paul situation working out. And I think someday we'll be saying, wow, look at Gilgeous-Alexander. I bet that year or maybe even a few more with Chris Paul really played a role in that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I like that comparison. I think that's spot on. Yeah, because like I think it has a lasting effect. Just it's kind of cliche, but like teaching them how to win, how to close, like those but those
How to be
those
a
are real
pro.
things. Yeah, those are real things that like young guys can't learn that from other young guys. Like that, it doesn't work. I think that's why the Phoenixes and Sacramentos of the world just stay in this perpetual state of rebuilding because it's like you have the blind leading the blind. You know what I mean? You
Yep.
like you got guys. The oldest veteran on the team has been in the league 4 or 5 years, never been in a playoff game, and you wondering why the culture isn't progressing. You know what I mean? It's so yeah. I totally agree with that. Do you know Schroeder's contract situation? Is he with the Thunder like multiple years moving forward?
So I think the way it is, I think he's got this year and then one more year. So he'll play one. He's got one more full season on his contract. I think it's around 17 million. Let me look here. I can pull this up actually. But I think he's got
Uh,
I think one more year. He's not a free agent yet, but he is probably eligible for a re-sign or whatever, an extension.
yeah.
He, in my opinion, is the top priority outside of Chris Paul. Like I said, Chris Paul doesn't look like he wants to stay, so that's a little bit different. So if guys that are definitely tangible options for your team, I think Schroeder needs to be an absolute priority in terms of this
Yeah,
offseason.
because man, he's performed like so well. And I'll be real. Like I've spent like the past 2 or 3 years, however long he's been there, trying to like poke a hole in his game or find reasons why I didn't like that contract. And he just forced me. You know what happened is he turned me into a fan. It's like I'll be
Yeah,
real. Like I didn't want to like that contract. I didn't think he was gonna fit. Like I said, I didn't think the three guard thing was gonna work. But every fucking where I turn and try to naysay him, he just like shut up, shut the fuck up. I can do
proving
this.
you wrong.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I love when athletes do that to me. They like leave me no choice but to be a fan. I love
Yeah,
that shit.
that's a
And
great point, man.
yeah, yeah, and he checks so many boxes for sure. So yeah, I wasn't sure of his contract situation moving forward. I think even without Chris Paul, him and SGA together moving forward as a backcourt is really nice. You
Yeah.
always have one ball handler on the game. You know what I mean? SGA, I think, is going to develop to be able to guard more wing players with his length. And so I think that's a really nice option defensively. And my next question for you is if you had to put money on it, you think Basley develops into an all-star, or is he just like a good bench scorer? Or like, you know what I mean? What do you think his ceiling and floor is on Basley?
Yeah. So if I had to put money on it, I think he becomes I think his ceiling is like a Draymond Green. in my opinion. He doesn't necessarily play like him in terms of his style. I think he's a better athlete than Draymond. But I think for what Oklahoma City wants to establish, I think he will take. It looks like that Danilo Gallinari is going to move on
Yeah, yeah.
as a free agent, so I think he'll be a starter. And what you saw in the playoffs, you saw what he has is something. Well, I don't think anybody on Oklahoma City's roster has this. He has an elite level or an elite ability to rebound on both sides of the ball, and that was something that Oklahoma City drastically needed in the Rocket series. And I think Billy Donovan was severely outcoached by Mike D'Antoni, and one of the things that I thought we should have done a ton more was play Baisley over Gallinari. He was such a better fit. Gallinari was cold a lot of the series. So to answer your question, I think he could be an all-star. I think that probably an all-star is his cap. Maybe
Yeah, not superstar, but just like make an
yeah,
all-star game or two as an alternate. Somebody, some wing, pulls a
yeah,
hammy. You know what I mean? He gets a
yeah,
phone call. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't. I think so too. I think that's realistic. No, I'm not saying he's a bust if he doesn't achieve that. I mean, I think, he kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, maybe like Kyle Kuzma with a bigger set of balls. Like I don't know,
yeah,
like a not soft Kuzma. Like I don't know, like a
yeah.
not Hollywood Kuzma. Like I don't know. I think getting drafted to LA was the worst thing that ever happened to Kuzma.
Oof,
Just the
yeah,
hype and the lights, all that. He drank his own Kool-Aid for sure. But like I said,
yes,
Basley is the body type and his ability to hit the outside shot and his ability to kind of get in where he fits in. It kind of reminds me of like a young pre-ego Kuzma. You know what I mean? And hopefully, like the Oklahoma City kind of environment, it can't get much different like from Hollywood than Oklahoma City. So, hopefully it helps keep him humble. But yeah, I
totally.
don't know. He's really interesting to me. Just because actually, 'cause, I collect sports cards. I had a few Basley rookie cards that like I literally didn't think anything of. I was like, oh, second
Yeah,
round guy, whatever. But then I was like, oh, let me go ahead and put these in some sleeves. This guy
yeah.
fucking yeah, he turned out to be a hooper for sure. And yeah, man. So I mean, any more last thoughts you want to just leave us with about like the Thunder moving forward, like the path forward? Like, what's your GM? You know what I'm saying? What's the path forward? You said Gallinari's probably gone. CP3's probably gone. Some people may see that as a bad thing. I see cha-ching cap space.
Yeah.
Um, and we still got SGA on that rookie contract. That helps the cap. That Schroeder deal is looking pretty low nowadays. You know what I'm saying? With guys making 50 a year.
Yep.
Uh, so I don't know. I feel like there's hella cap space, but OKC is a small market team. Let's not kid ourselves. There's not traditionally been a line of free agents to go to places like Oklahoma City. Um, what options and we have draft picks falling out
Yeah.
the ass. I mean, so maybe
Yeah.
more of a trade than a free agent, like Pat. That way they don't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? They get the. I could see a scenario with like that. Maybe
Yeah.
package some picks.
There's a ton. So, and it's crazy. I think right now is this ultimate fork in the road for Sam Presti and the Thunder. You have all the chips, or you have control and all the power in every single situation you're going to walk into. It's clear as day that CP3 is wanting to get moved to a higher level contender. That's looking like probably going to get narrowed down to a couple teams in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and I've seen Phoenix as a hot name as well. Those three are probably where, if I had to pick between
If
three.
he leaves us for Phoenix, he can go
I
fuck
know.
himself.
I know. But the thing is that's interesting is, so like we talked about, is prior to the year, Chris Paul's value was as low as it has ever been. And
Yeah,
as we get here now, for full circle through the year, and especially his performance late into the playoffs, that contract is, at least you can take it on without feeling like shit. So he,
totally. I didn't think about that. People do that, talk about that in baseball all the time. They'll
mm-hmm,
play guys just to get their trade value up, but
yep,
like they actually got best of both worlds. They got a great production and they got his trade value way up, way
yep.
up.
So I think that, and Chris and Sam Presti knows. I hope he knows. I think he's been fooled or put in situations where his return wasn't maximized. And I know probably the most infamous trade of our lifetime, or young lifetime, is the Harden situation.
Yeah.
But I think he knows now. Like, I have an opportunity where I have to match this salary, and I don't necessarily know if I want to take on a ton of expiring. So what do you get? What does Milwaukee offer you that you like? Do they offer you, Chris Middleton, Wesley Matthews, and
Middleton.
DiVincenzo. I mean, can you take something like that on? I doubt they get rid of a Middleton, but they could give you some guys that wouldn't hurt
Literally,
your roster.
middle. You know who I wouldn't mind getting, and some people may scoff at this, but I'll be real. I want to. This will transition to something else. I want to talk about me being out on Steven Adams. I want the fucking Lopez twins, both of
Yeah,
them,
I'd take it in a
both
heartbeat.
of them. I like Adams. Breaks my heart, man. It
Yeah,
breaks my heart. I love Steven Adams. I've been a fan for years, but it's just to me, it's over with. He couldn't
it's over.
exploit the Houston matchup. He's a liability, not an asset. His contract's looking not so hot now. He literally can't give you much without Russ throwing him oops. I'm out on Steven Adams, and it breaks my
Yeah.
heart to say that. But I'm just talking about players coming back from the Bucks. Literally both Lopez's. I wouldn't mind it.
I would take it, man. And the combination of their minutes would be strong. Lopez is a pretty good defender. He's extended his range quite a bit. He can give you somewhere between 16 and 20 a game at his peak.
Yeah.
Whereas
And he's
Adams,
a good defender.
yeah,
They
yeah,
both are.
I don't know if it was this year. I think last year he led the league in blocks, which, as a guy who doesn't look like some freak athlete, you would think a guy like Giannis probably a little bit more, but Lopez probably going to be doing a little bit more off the ball defense. But Adams, yeah, it sucks, but the number one thing in sports you got to remember is loyalty will kill you. And despite Adams' love in the community and everything he's kind of galvanized with OKC and kind of the last guard of that prior era, him and Roberson are the only guys left from the KD Russ time period. So I think if you can, and as kind of a lack of parallel with CP3, is Adams' worth is as low as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, I
getting
think they're
back,
stuck with him.
yeah. So you never know. Presti's been able to spin things into gold. We got, I don't know if you remember this, but Schroeder is essentially a straight up trade for Carmelo Anthony. I mean, we traded Melo once he was done here to Atlanta and got Schroeder for him, and then they waived him. So, I mean, that's a deal I would have taken 100 times out of
Yeah,
100
that's
at the time.
clutch.
So,
I forgot that's how we got Schroeder. That's
yeah,
clutch. That's really clutch, and especially that Melo because we weren't getting
yeah.
skinny Portland Melo. That's for
Nah,
sure. We
nah.
were
He didn't
getting
have that chip on his shoulder yet. He hadn't essentially been benched and cut from the league. So, and
yeah.
props to Melo for coming back for that with that, man. You
No,
got to give a guy
that
credit.
was one of my favorite parts about this year for real because it's like I didn't want to see him do bad. It's just he wasn't helping OKC at all.
Yeah.
And to get Schroeder back for him, I forgot all about that. I'm glad you brought up that little nugget. But yeah, man, that's interesting. So I don't know. I want to hear three names from Patrick Murray that you think could find themselves onto a Thunder roster next year. Then we'll keep it pushing. We'll keep it
Okay.
pushing from the Thunder after that.
Okay. If I had to think about this, I like this. If I was being realistic, I would say Brook Lopez. A combination of like Brook Lopez with Wesley Matthews and maybe an asset or some trades or excuse me, some picks from Milwaukee. If we're talking about Philadelphia, I think this is a total shot in the dark. Let me get Ben Simmons and Josh Richardson. I'll say Josh Richardson and maybe one other person from Philly. And then absolutely crazy if we talk about Phoenix, I'll take DeAndre Ayton and the kid from
Yeah.
North Carolina, James Johnson, shooter, straight up for Chris Paul. Just hypothetical.
Okay. I like all those. I like all those for real. Moving forward, I like all those pieces for different reasons. Now, none of those are like, Giannis home runs, but I think that those type of moves are what the more realistic, more likely to happen on a team like
Yeah.
OKC, in that type of market. But I like it. I like all those options. I think that's intriguing going forward for sure, man. Yeah, I was actually able to watch the Thunder play this year before Corona hit.
Oh, really?
Whenever they came to Sacramento.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like a 2 hour drive to Sacramento.
Okay.
Which is crazy because with traffic, it takes like 2 hours to get to San Francisco anyway, even though it's like way closer.
Yeah.
So like me, and it's what Kings tickets are way cheaper than Warriors tickets.
No
So
doubt. No doubt
yeah.
about that.
So and the Kings just built that brand new arena. It's only like 1 or 2 years old. It's badass. So me and Nina went up to Kings games like twice this year before
That's
Corona.
dope, man.
And we watched the Thunder play, and that's whenever I really fell in love with this team. Like, cause I didn't, not all their games are on TV out here and shit, and so I hadn't got to watch them a whole bunch. But just from what I'd seen on paper, I didn't really like it. But then I walked away that night thinking like, oh, this is what they're doing with the three
Yep,
guards. It was really dope to see in person. It really was for
for
sure. And
sure, man. That's
yeah,
awesome you got to see him, man. It feels like so long ago, huh?
it does. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was. Yeah, and then also it was a coincidentally like right after Kobe passed too, so like it was like a Kobe memorial night at the stadium and all that.
Oh,
So
dang.
I'll,
Okay.
I'll I'll always remember that for sure, for sure. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to go to a game in Sacramento, cheap tickets, like cheap parking, like 'cause it's a small downtown. It's crazy. Downtown Sacramento reminds me so much of downtown Oklahoma City. Like they're really
Damn.
similar. And like
Okay.
similar vibes. They got the brand new stadium. It's not like a pain in the ass. Like you go to a game in San Francisco, bro, you're paying $60 for parking, and you'll probably come back to your window broken.
Yeah, fuck all
Yeah.
that.
Sacramento's like pretty chill. Like
Yeah,
it's not even a big deal. It's like I said, it reminds me a lot of Oklahoma City. So yeah, man,
dope, man.
ever get a chance, so now yeah, kind of transition. I am out here in the Bay Area now, and I'm forced to listen to a lot of Warriors talk and on the radio, and I listen to sports radio, and just my uncles and shit. Just my dad's a big Warriors fan, so
Okay.
I'm surrounded by. I'm in Warriors territory, so I kind of
In a
want to
sea of it.
yeah, yeah. I'm in the thick of it. I wanted to kind of transition there next, because they are a fun team to talk about, regardless of all those connections. Just because I don't think we've ever seen this. They're in kind of a scenario like the Spurs were before they drafted Tim Duncan. Like they had just won the championship with David Robinson, right? And
Yep.
then,
Hmm.
but then they had got an injury and ended up with the number one pick. So the Warriors are just coming off the legendary dynastic run with Kevin Durant and Steph and Clay and Draymond. And then but then KD leaves, everybody and their dog either gets hurt or whatever, and they're at rock bottom. They end up with the number two pick. So I just kind of wanted to I'll start with this question. Is this a bleep in the radar? And then the dynasty resumes right on schedule with Steph still on the tail end of his prime, or are the best days behind them? Is it time to reshuffle the deck? You think the Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and I guess Wiggins that led Warriors have like a combined with whatever they do with this number two overall pick? How optimistic does that do anything for you? How you feeling about that?
Yeah, man. I think that the Warriors are going to pick up right where they were prior to this. I don't obviously
Ah,
losing KD is a huge loss, and
yeah,
what he supplemented to what they already had to that 73-9 team is a big deal. But the core of even just the two, because I think Draymond Green's play has slipped a little bit. He's not quite
yeah,
as athletic as he used to be, but if in a system you see guys all the time in these culture systems that despite as they age, they can still play at a high level. So I'm not going to doubt him too much, but Steph and Clay deserve so much credit and are so talented, and that culture that they've established there with Steve Kerr,
yeah.
I think will carry them a long way. And we've seen, it's interesting how the Clippers and Lakers are clearly the talk of the West, despite what may happen tonight with the Nuggets. I still think the Clippers are a better team, but I think that the West is going to be, they'll have a ton of teams, incredibly talented teams next season. But I'm not betting against Curry and Clay. And with Wiggins, Wiggins right now is essentially,
That's interesting, right? That's a wild card.
yeah,
That's a joker, right?
huge
Like,
wild card. And to your credit, man, you mentioned something earlier that I think is important. When you are a professional and you come into a league and you are automatically right off the bat losing
yep,
consistently, like he was in Minnesota,
yep,
that's something that gets into your DNA, man, and it's hard to break away from that. And so now that he's moving to probably one of the most successful of the past 10 years, at least, dynasties in the NBA and a winning culture, I think that could help his game quite a bit. A little bit higher, commitment to defense, higher commitment to your training, higher commitment to your body. Minnesota is not a place where that's conducive. So that Wiggins as an asset, we may see, excuse me, we may see a situation where they run it. I think I think he is on the roster opening day, but I think you could see a situation where they'll either package him with that number 2 pick
With
and
that
trade him.
number 2 pick. That's what
Yeah,
they're talking about on sports radio out
yeah.
here.
There's no way the Golden State Warriors will even they may make that pick and trade it, or do something like we've seen with that, or they'll just trade the pick straight up and package Wiggins. I think you could see that for them to acquire just a really super talented wing. The detriment for the Warriors in this draft is that the draft is not very strong, and so in a perfect world, they'd be drafting somebody like in previous years where a guy that's sitting at number 2 overall, like a fucking Jason Tatum, is available. But that's not the case
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah,
You're taking.
that's exactly who they need is Jason Tatum. Like
Oh
real talk.
God, it would
Yeah.
be so big. But or even like a few years ago, like a DeAndre Ayton, a guy that's just a super versatile big that could play within their system.
So you
But
seem to be high on Ayton.
I like Ayton. I
You
really
like
like
Ayton.
Ayton.
That's cool,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I like him too. I hate how fast we give up on NBA like 19-year-olds. Like real
Yeah.
talk. That's good though. I don't know. It's been a while since I've heard positive things surrounding the name Ayton. And I'm not saying I
Yeah.
disagree with you. The hot thing to do out there is to shit on Ayton. So you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, but
He
no,
was put in a bad spot, I think. You deal with kind of some injuries and play one season in college, and then you kind of get in trouble with the money thing. That can always leave a lingering taste in your mouth for a lot of guys as you enter the league. And number 1 picks are so complicated because sometimes it's a necessity thing. Sometimes it's not your fault that you go number 1 overall. Shout out to
yeah.
Anthony Bennett. But, you go to Phoenix and the expectations are so fucking low, and, you're coming off injuries and you don't really even start to play halfway through the season. So you just got to be patient. Same with guys like Zion. You know what I mean? Like, this is professional sports, man. There are intangibles that exist outside of just putting on your shorts and shoes and going to play. So
Yeah, and having played sports, we know that, and like how guys
yeah,
work in the locker room, and how guys, work in the off season and take care of
coaches.
themselves and study film and all that shit. Yeah, man, the motivation levels that's very real, man. The people, it's not 2K. The game is not played on paper. These are
Nah,
real, breathing, individuals, thoughts, feelings, friendships, enemies. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I got to ask, just kind of a little debate topic. As of today, it sounds like you're still pretty high on Steph. Would you take Steph over James Harden for one season? I'm not talking about moving forward or to build a franchise. I'm around like you think
Yeah.
Steph's still at that like super uber elite level?
I'm taking Steph, and without a doubt, I didn't even have to think twice about it. For 2 reasons. Number 1, Steph plays winning basketball, and
He
that
does,
James Harden
man.
individually, like James Harden offensively can do so much, but that doesn't win you games. And I think that's something that you've seen a little bit with Russ as well. Individually, their performances are special, and they can help some of their teammates get involved, but you have to understand that like playing within the game is important as well. And Steph has proven on the biggest stages time and time again that he can be a championship level player. He was a 2-time MVP. And more than anything, as much as we want to talk about how James Harden has evolved some of the offensive game, I think Steph Curry out in NBA history transcended the game, and that the primary ball handler on your team who can be, a borderline double digit assist guy can also pull up from 35 12 times a game and just
He
fucking
birthed.
just crush
Think
your
about
soul, man.
think
Crush your
about all the
fucking soul.
players that Steph birthed. Just
Oh,
all the people like just that like his son
yep.
just that are pulling up from 30 now on the regular, just the whole generation. No
Hmm.
doubt, I like that, man. I like that too. I mean, I'm not a big Harden guy, but it's like I try to not let my like personal bias come into play too much. But I'm not the
Yeah.
biggest Harden guy. But I'm also out here in the Bay with a bunch of Steph
You're in
dick
the thick of it,
suckers.
bro.
So yeah, so it's like I wanted to hear an outsider's opinion on that debate
Yeah.
for sure.
And I don't even hate Harden like necessarily. I don't really like what the Rockets do. It's hard to watch and it can be frustrating. And clearly it's been proven that like it's not conducive to winning a championship. But I'm not going to ever discredit James Harden as a basketball player. I mean, dude, he averaged what, 36, 37. I mean, and his game is crazy. But at the same time, I want to watch winning basketball. That's more fun and more interesting to me. And team basketball is just really exciting.
You know what I don't understand is how nobody else has been able to figure out what Steph and Clay do, where they do like a give and go, but instead of running to the basket, they cut like behind a screen to the 3-point line. It's like nobody seems to have figured
Yeah,
that out. That relocation, that like it's like a give and go, but it's not to the hoop. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing extravagant, but like nobody else seems to do it. Like
it's crazy.
legit. Like if Harden
It's
did more of that, or I think Lillard does it a little bit, but not as effectively as Steph and Clay. They've mastered it.
Well, off-ball movement is how you can win in the NBA, and you don't have to be a great player to move off the ball. A team that just maximized it, my memory of it completely is the Spurs. Spurs could get guys in that fucking system that were nobodies. Danny Green, Patty Mills, all these dudes that were just, castaways. I mean, Danny Green got cut by the fucking Cleveland Cavaliers when LeBron didn't even play there. And then he comes to
Wow.
San Antonio and was a borderline finals MVP if it weren't for Ray Allen. And a lot of that just comes down to the system you run and off-ball movement as guys that are trying to get to the three-point line and move guys around and just run through and run around screens. That's why the Warriors are so fucking good. Is because they took a system that works and then they put the best fucking shooters and players of all time in it.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful to watch, and like it's I don't know, it really like because I do watch a lot of Warriors games because I'm in
Yeah.
the market, and it's just it makes you spoiled in a way to where like not so much this past year with all these cast offs and 1 year signings and D League guys they had, but previously just like talent aside, just watching the ball move like that, and then you like turn to like a Houston game or a Philadelphia game or you know what I mean, insert team X here, and it just makes you want to pull your hair out. You're like, why is everybody standing around?
Oh,
And
man.
yeah, it seems like
OKC fell victim to that heavy in the playoffs, unfortunately.
yeah, they did, and man, yeah, they were a little too like isolation and just floater
Hmm.
heavy, and I would have loved to see it. It's one of those things. It's the ultimate easier said than done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like in fighting, every tall fighter gets told, keep the distance, pump the jab, but not everybody can actually execute it. It's one of the ultimate example of easier said than done, the whole off the ball movement things.
For
But
sure.
it's gorgeous to watch. But yeah, with that number 2 overall pick, you seem pretty confident that they're going to trade it. A lot of people around here think they're going to trade it. Um, I I don't know. I'm not even necessarily trying to hot take it here. I'm just trying to think. Everybody's trying to say that the Warriors need to model the Spurs and like try to go for like aim for the next 20 years as opposed to the next 5, and like maybe not try to continue this dynasty but transition to a new one or something like that. And like how it went from Duncan and Parker to Kawhi. You know what I'm saying? But that seems to be so in that saying, I low-key think it wouldn't be horrible for them to draft. This is a little hot takey, but I can see a scenario where it works. They draft Ball. He comes up. They need bench scoring like bad, like really
Yeah.
bad, and they need a backup wing really bad. And I know he's pretty much a point guard, but I think in his rookie year at 6'8", getting some minutes with Steph that playing some backup wing, I don't think he would trip too much. And like I could see this, and then he develops as the next wave, like in the Spurs model, or the Warriors currently legitimately don't have a big. I mean, they play Draymond at the 5 some, and they have like Marquise Chris, but like
Yeah. Nothing.
so I mean, a lot of people are liking the Wiseman pick, and I've heard James Wiseman be compared to maybe a little bit similar to like a Chris Bosh type of player, maybe a little high hopes on that, but you know what I mean? I
I
don't
think
know.
if they're gonna, in my opinion, I think if they're gonna take a pick, it's got to be Wiseman, because he's the only guy, in my opinion, that they could play
They could play
minutes
him.
without interfering. Because I understand what you're saying about the Spurs and playing the long game. Um, I think the Spurs got fucking incredibly lucky to draft a guy like Kawhi Leonard and able to kind of carry that next torch and win in the later part of that version of their dynasty. I just Lonzo Ball. The main reason I don't think they'll draft Lonzo Ball outside of him playing the same kind of position as Steph is the Warriors are too fucking smart to bring the Ball family into that culture, and I
Right?
think having the father in there and everything else that came with that BS. You saw that with the Lakers. The Lakers, let me put it this way. The Lakers fucking traded him when Magic Johnson was still around. That's how bad that situation was, because Magic had no business being involved in terms of general management. He was kind of a clown show in my opinion as well. So
Did you ever hear that audio clip when he's like, "I'm not gonna be here"?
oh yeah, he's like, I just ain't gonna be here. Shit was hilarious.
I died. Oh,
I
that
know,
makes me
man.
die every time. Like, he just
I'm
kept it
saying.
a buck. He kept it a buck.
And hadn't even talked to the franchise, people he'd been with for 30 plus years, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be around for that." My phone's buzzing.
Legendary, man. But all right, man. For sure, man. We'll keep it pushing from the Warriors, man. Like I said,
Yeah.
this is gonna be the only other team I talk about that didn't make the playoffs. But like I said, I do go to some Kings games, and Nina's a Kings fan, and we go to a few Kings games. I'm starting to kind of root for them. They got Buddy Hield, our Sooner brother. So I kind of
Yes,
low
sir.
key pull for the Kings. I like to kind of keep an eye on what they're doing, even though that eye is usually disappointed. And yeah, so I just kind of want to touch on the Kings, not too long, but just bounce a few things off you.
Yeah. So
So,
that
oh my bad, I got to
no,
start
go
off with
ahead.
a question. Do you think that the Fox Hield combo is good enough to build around? That's what they're trying to market. Like that's who's on all the T-shirts in their team shop up at the stadium. They're trying to market. That's the future Hield
Yeah.
and Fox. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah? What's your thoughts?
I'm gonna have to say no.
Yeah,
They're good pieces. Don't get me wrong. De'Aaron Fox is talented. One of the fastest players in the NBA. Kind of a unique skill set. Smaller guard, ball handler, but extra athletic kind of guy that just can jump up and dunk on you. That's like a 6'1" guy. And then Buddy has proven to be one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Has been that way since kind of his senior year in college, and has really continued to work on that game. But they don't have anything else really besides that. I know Harrison Barnes is kind of the moneymaker, veteran presence on the team, and I like him. I really do, and I think he's been a huge step up for them. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they got
it
invited to
was
the
a
bubble.
nice time.
Yeah, I mean, he's a vet. He's a vet, and he's a pro, and he's going to get you what you need. And he's a good voice in the locker room, I think, to galvanize and, like we were talking about earlier, to kind of be a leader and teach some of these younger guys. But if I had to guess, Nom, I would bet that Buddy gets moved by the trade deadline this year. I think that's been kind of
Okay.
a buzz kind of about the NBA. I think he's unhappy and knows that he can contribute to a contender.
He could, man. He really could.
Yeah,
Like if he went to Milwaukee with
yeah.
Giannis, or like I don't even know a team like that, or I don't know. I think Buddy on a contender, or
He
even
needs
like
to go to the Lakers. That's where he needs to go.
yeah.
Lakers would fucking kill to have him.
You're right. You're right. That would take his career to another level.
Yeah, I think I could see him in Los Angeles, but I don't know what they can give up. I mean, they could give Kuzma straight up for him if they wanted to do something like that. Because I think Buddy got signed up maybe like a 10 or 12 per extension or something like that. I can't remember, but we'll see. I don't hate the Kings because Vladdy's still the GM, right? He's
No, I
still
think he's out. I think
okay.
finally.
If Vladdy's out, then you've got a little bit better chance. But
That's what I'm saying. It's just so like my next question is just like, do you see just any possible scenario for it? Like, what's your thoughts on Bagley? You think Bagley's just a total bust? You think there's any hope there? You think like Fox and Bagley, maybe more so than maybe Fox, Bagley, and whatever they get back in the Hield trade, maybe it could be the future, or I don't
could
know.
be. It could be. That's on. I had forgot about Bagley, and I think that the jury's still kind of out on Bagley. He's dealt with injuries. He's a tweener kind of guy.
The tweener.
He's a guy that is more back to the basketball, but he's a little bit thinner. Doesn't have 3-point range. Doesn't really have a front-facing game either. So it's just kind of like, okay, is he going to be more of like a rim runner and decent defender, or is he going to be able to improve his game where he can step out to 18 to 20? And kind of make you, at least a little more honest as a guy that's not going to be able to back you down because of his lack of strength.
Yeah, no, he is interesting. Yeah, he's a very interesting player for sure. So yeah, no, definitely they're a huge question mark, right? Like who the
Yeah.
fuck knows? But yeah, I guess I'll keep buying those cheap tickets when the Thunder come to town and seeing what's up.
Yeah, it could be worse, man. They're competitive. I'll give them that. They compete. They're not going to just I think that showed in the bubble. They're going to be competitive and give you enough. I don't think they've got the horses to really compete in the Western Conference against some of these other teams that are getting better.
Yeah, they don't even have like necessarily a guy. Like they're trying to market Fox as the guy, but
Mm-hmm.
I think he's super unproven. Like Fox to me isn't even proven as like a Devin Booker or
No, no.
like he's, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't even know a good comp for Fox, but it's not. It's definitely like a player with a lot of question marks still for sure.
Yeah,
All
totally.
right, man. What the Bucks officially eliminated. We've kind of talked about him a few times just in the course of our conversation already, but Giannis out? Yay or
Done.
nay? Giannis
Oh
out?
no, no. I think Giannis stays.
You think Giannis stays?
Yeah, I think Giannis stays. I think it came out yesterday that he'd spent some time talking with ownership, and they had mentioned that they were willing to surpass the luxury tax, spend all that they can in order to win now. It's crazy. You made an interesting point about how quickly we are with stars and how, are they reaching a certain level? Are they at this level comparably to other stars and at versions of their career? It's like, oh, well, he's won an MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. And okay, why isn't he winning a championship? Well, and I honestly, prior to the bubble, I thought they were the best team in the NBA. And I didn't even know if it was that close. They were so dominant on both sides of the
Really?
ball. Their point differential was going to go down as the second best in history if they'd stayed on that trajectory, which is really a testament to both sides of the ball. I love the way that the roster was put together in terms of versatility. I thought that Middleton was coming on strong. But as they got into the bubble, it's like they totally tightened up, and it was like
Yeah.
Giannis and everybody else. Now, I know that it's been kind of widely discussed about how their play in the regular season doesn't really translate to the playoffs in a series because of what Giannis is.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
his best,
Budenholzer. This isn't the first time we've
oh,
seen it with
no.
the Budenholzer team. Remember those ATL Hawks squad used to win first like
Yep,
every fucking year and then get bounced in like the second round.
yep,
Remember? I
totally.
mean, and I feel
Yeah,
like
oh, yeah.
it's
With
deja
Josh
vu.
Smith, Joe Johnson. Yeah, you're so
Yeah.
right, man. And so, the problem, in my opinion, that I think they're just fucking up is like, why do you have him take 3-point shots? I don't get it. He's fucking unstoppable within 10 feet. He has enough wiggle if he's going to have guys defending him with his back to the basket. That's not a fucking chance with anybody. If he's going to get you in transition, that's not a chance with anybody. I just don't understand. Like, it's wasted possessions, and a ton of them are like early in the shot clock, like contested. And I'm like,
And I think it comes from him. Even the whole reason he has the ball at the 3-point line is the fact they have him playing point guard essentially.
yeah,
Which is a huge whatever money they spending in the luxury tax better be on a motherfucking point guard.
oh,
Because Bledsoe, they shouldn't have traded Brogdon. That's where they originally fucked up. Because remember,
yes,
they made the
yes,
choice to trade Brogdon and keep Bledsoe. If they
fucked
would have
up.
kept Brogdon, I don't even think we'd having this conversation. Like, I'm not saying Brogdon's Steph Curry, but he's a legit point guard. Like, he's a point guard that can get Giannis the ball, get the offense rolling. Like,
Yep.
Bledsoe is like a two guard that plays point guard because he's short. You know what I'm saying?
Bulldog kind of player. Yeah,
Yeah, or he's like a bench guy. He's like a bench
yeah,
point guard. Like I don't know. It doesn't match because they're essentially making Giannis like play point guard, which leads to a
mm-hmm.
fuck ton of turnovers and those bullshit threes that you talked about. And then yeah, like I think if they had like a legit point guard, I'm not even gonna say anybody too crazy. Like even if they had like a Mike Conley,
Yeah,
if they had like a Mike Conley, like a bona fide like a point guard, like
yeah,
that could run the fucking point, take the ball up court, get Giannis cutting, you know what I'm saying? Get Giannis posting up, that running, pick and rolls with Giannis as the roller.
yep,
I think because that's what when people are saying Giannis is a Scottie Pippen, or he's a 2, not a 1. I don't think it necessarily needs to be in like stature as much as like quite literally he's not a 1 like the position 1. Like stop having
yeah,
to run the point.
yeah,
I don't know. I think just I'm by no means, you know what I mean. I'm no Coach K. I'm a casual basketball fan, but with my eye, I just feel like that's like the root of all their problems is him bringing the ball up the court which leads to him taking those threes, which leads to turnovers, which leads to everybody else standing around. Just every knock that you can knock against the Bucks, I feel
Yeah,
like comes from lack of a point guard.
I totally agree. And I think, like I said, he plays out of position. I think when you really boil it down and look at the best way for them to win with him, he's a center. He's a fucking center.
Oh,
And like,
spicy,
well, I mean, you think
spicy.
about it though, Dom, like when you take it all into consideration, like the NBA has moved so far away from the traditional post player. And like,
Oh, I love
who's the
it.
last? I fucking love it too. And I think it's going to make a resurgence. That's why I love Nikola Jokic so much. But you think about the last team to really win a championship with a true like offensive threat or a multi-purpose threat in the post. It's Tim Duncan. And that even in 2013, he wasn't even quite what he was anymore. But as you look at the champions, it's been Rockets and Cavs, and then Toronto last year. Or excuse me, not Rockets, Warriors and Cavs, and then Toronto last year. Yeah. And so Giannis, he's not necessarily like a smooth offensive player, quite like Jokic. He doesn't have that stroke in the mid-range game as much, but he's so fucking violently aggressive and powerful. Like it needs to be, you can run the offense through him, but it needs to be much more proximity to the basket.
Like him at the elbow.
Oh,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Or with people
yes.
cutting and running off ball screens for shooters. And yeah.
Because he's such a good passer. He's such a good passer and a rebounder as well. Like, I just don't know how you can do that. How you play in the way that you're playing it right now and
like
not
seriously,
see.
like if you're calling a Bucks game, Giannis takes the ball up court, he's at the top of the key, and then he's either gonna try to do like the longest Euro step ever. He's gonna settle for a bullshit three, or he's gonna toss to a stagnant guy in the
Yep.
like who fires up a non-cutting, non really quality three ball shot.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's awful to watch. Like it's the
Yeah.
ultimate stand and watch. I think it falls on I think Budenholzer and the GM got to go, in
Yeah.
my opinion, because I don't think you can blame one. Budenholzer needs to if he can't get people to run off the ball screens, then I'm sorry, your system. There is no system. It's stand and watch Giannis, and then on top of that, the GM hasn't got it figured out that you perhaps need a point guard in the guard-driven NBA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in the 90s, Giannis would have been power forward, just running shit. But you need a guard. Like, even if that guard is only averaging like 15 a game, like, you need a guard. Like, you need a guard. Like, I don't think Middleton. They tried to force Middleton into like a guard. He's a wing. I mean,
He's a wing, man.
If you want to call him a two, I guess if you want to, whatever. But he's really an undersized three, kind of a tweener. He's a wing. And he's not necessarily he shouldn't be neither Middleton or Giannis should really be running any pick and rolls, in my opinion. In a perfect world.
Yeah, they need a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like that's really, like you said, like, and I think the league needs to be absolutely fucking terrified if they find a way to get Chris Paul, because the combo of those two. That's exactly
what we just described.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we just described.
And I think it would be so. I think with the combination of the massive chip on Chris's shoulder and the way that this season went for Giannis and the way that the expectations were, I think that could be a fucking recipe for success moving forward. And with the East, you saw Toronto kind of crack a little bit, and some, the Celtics are certainly coming on. Miami's certainly coming on, but the East is definitely still there to take for the one dominant team.
What up, everybody? Thanks, everybody that's tuning in to episode 15 of Dreadful Talk with my guest, Patrick Murray, host of his own podcast, Today in the NBA. We're talking hoops. We're talking NBA playoffs, and let me get my brother back on here. What up, man?
Back at it.
Yeah, we're back at it, man. I appreciate all your time, brother.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, man, we're going deep on some NBA, on some NBA playoffs, on just, what teams' futures hold, just, the whole scope of it, man. Love talking hoops with my brother. For those that also don't know, me and Patrick played football together back in high school, man.
Way back.
Way back in the day, man, a great old lineman, man. You want to tell he's looking slim nowadays. You want to tell he used to be a beefy boy too, but
Yeah, many pounds ago, man. Many pounds ago.
you're looking good, man. You're looking
Thank
good,
you.
brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much.
I think
This has
I'm
been a
probably weighing what you weighed when you played O-line.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see. Back then, I was at like by my senior year, I was like 255.
All right, I ain't that beefy
I was gonna
yet,
say
but
you ain't that you can't be up there, bro.
I ain't that beefy yet. But yeah, man, no, it's that's good though, man. You what'd you get into to drop the pounds? You just working out in general? Did you get like a hobby? Just
Oh man, I'm working out in general. I started working in restaurants, and so I was on my feet quite a bit. And just honestly, man, the habits I had in order to keep that weight on was so unhealthy. Like it
so
was it was
you
a
were
fight.
trying to be big.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle like keeping it on. And at a point, I mean, I was eating, probably between 5 and 6,000 calories a day by the time I got into my senior year, just trying to keep the weight on, bro. And it was
That's wild.
horrible. And so by the
Yeah.
time, like probably 2 months after that, my senior year finished up, I probably had lost 20 pounds.
Oh
Just like I
wow.
couldn't keep it on. And then, like right now, I hover right around 190 nowadays.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah.
Slim Jimmy over there, man. I'm like 225, dog.
Yeah,
But
but I know you stay in the gym a little bit, bro.
a
You keep
little
that
bit,
chest
yeah.
right.
Right. I've been hitting the prison push-up regimen lately, just 'cause gyms are still closed out here.
Yeah, and they're open here, man, but I ain't even touching it. That I gotta stay home and run outside, and I do a little bit around the house, but I just, man, I don't have the stones to go into the gym yet.
Yeah, I feel it. Call it stones or call it brain cells, whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah, right.
yeah, man. But you know what I've been doing to get a little sweat in lately? Surprisingly enough, I've been fucking hopping on the old skateboard a little bit. I
I
haven't.
saw you, bro. I
Yeah,
saw
man.
you on your
I haven't fucked
story.
myself up too bad yet. I'm sure it's coming. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. And then yeah, you can get a little sweat going real quick. You know,
Yes,
just
sir.
real quick. But yeah, man. Hop back into some hoops, man. Let's
Let's
talk
get
some
it.
Raptors.
Ooh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Raptors, man. I don't know if you saw extended Nick Nurse today, multi-year extension, which I think is money well spent for
He
them.
deserves it. He deserves it. Just adapt, overcome. I mean, think about just the different iterations of that squad. There was the DeMar DeRozan era.
Yep.
Then there was the Kawhi era. Then the post Kawhi era. I guess if you want to call 1 year an era, but I mean, hell, best era in Raptors history. I'm sure they want to
No
look at it
doubt.
like an era, but yeah, and every iteration's been good. I mean, I know people used to like to clown on DeMar and Kyle getting sunned by LeBron back in the day, but it would still always be there, man, every fucking year.
Yeah, man. He I don't even know. I think he had the last year with DeRozan, and I don't even know if he had him. It may have been Dwayne Casey.
Oh,
I
was
can't
that
remember. I can't
that
remember.
transition? Yeah, I don't know what year that transition took place.
But they took a big risk bringing him in. Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year with Toronto, and then they fire him. I think he's in Detroit now.
I think winning
Clearly,
Coach of the Year is a curse, bro. Like,
it is, man. It is. You look at it this year. Budenholzer's definitely riding the hot seat,
yeah,
and then obviously Billy D moving on, and then Nick Nurse is in good shape, and he's going to be there as long as he wants to be there, in my opinion. I think.
especially in a market like Toronto.
Yeah, man, and I mean, you bring a championship to that city, and alongside
That
obviously,
was a lot of fun, man. That was a
hell
lot of fun. Like,
yes.
I'm not obviously a Raptors fan, but watching the Raptors win a ring, like, when did we think that was gonna happen? Now they got some injuries and shit that
Whew, they
favored
got
them,
lucky, lucky,
but
lucky.
but fuck all. And then that shot, the epic shot of all shots, Kawhi, the
Yeah,
bounce, epic shot.
it was just nice to root. I think we had been stuck in this position for so long where it was you knew the Warriors were going to be there, no doubt, for a stretch of time. Obviously, Cleveland did their best to get there every year and would lose, especially during the KD time period. So last year it was really cool to see the Raptors um, kind of be just a different team. They
Yeah,
were
we
built,
were dying
yeah,
to watch a different team, and it gets no
yeah.
more different than the goddamn team from Canada with the dinosaur as a mascot. You know what
Ooh,
I'm
that's so
saying?
true. Yeah, and then
Yeah, yeah.
Kawhi's such an unconventional superstar,
And
and like,
nobody knew if he was going to be right coming off the injury. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? And there was all the controversy if the injury was real or was it not real. He went out on bad terms with Pop and the Spurs. I mean, there was a
yeah.
lot in the air. You know what I mean? And it kind of came out of, I don't want to say left field, but in a way, left, like, you know.
Well, how often do you do something like that? You trade DeRozan for no guarantee on the last year on Kawhi Leonard's contract,
Yep.
and you
And it
win.
paid
You
off.
win. Yeah, you win. So that's pretty dope. That doesn't work out often. Obviously, the Clippers are facing that right now with the way they've set themselves up with Paul George. But I know we're going to get to them in a little bit. We'll stick with the
Yeah, yeah.
Raptors. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Raptors, man, they're awesome. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge
And
fan of the
what
way
they
they
were
play.
able to do in this year's playoffs, even though they're officially eliminated, but they went
Yeah.
7 with Boston, right?
Yep. That
And
was the best series of the playoffs,
it
in my
was
opinion, so
amazing
far.
series. They have nothing to be ashamed of.
Nah.
They put in a hell of a season. They were kind of like the Thunder. They're like the Eastern Conference version of the Thunder as far as like nobody really expected much out of them. I mean,
Yeah.
they had Kyle Lowry in year 14 or 15, whatever it is, and then they had Siakam, who was looking promising but far from like a proven.
Yeah, and he had a
Yeah.
tough end of the season, man. He had a
He
really tough.
did.
He had a really poor series with the Celtics. Shot
I
like 12% from three in the series and over 7 games. That's pretty much dog shit.
And so and I thought if Siakam had a great series or great playoffs, I thought their path forward was super obvious.
Yeah.
But the fact that he had such a shitty playoffs, that really muddies the waters on like their path forward, right? Don't you think?
I do, man. I think Kyle Lowry is kind of like a Chris Paul light. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he's
that's
a
a good.
veteran. He's proven. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. He's one of those, and the NBA is really easy about Hall of
Yeah,
Fame. So
yeah,
it's
NBA
not the
Hall of
hardest
Fame.
thing. But he's a guy. He's obviously a champ, 6-time All-Star, really good defender. Has done a lot of things in the clutch for Toronto, and clearly at this point, I mean, I know Kawhi Leonard was the savior last year for them, but Kyle Lowry is probably the most popular Toronto athlete that's ever lived, and
Good
that's a
point. Good
mouthful,
point.
man. That's a mouthful, and I think he'll retire there, but
How
you
many
know,
more years do you think he got? So he just finished up year 14. I mean, not
yeah.
many guys go play 16, 17 years. You think he's going to run it back next year?
I think he probably has got 2 good years left, maybe one. Well, you never know. I think something that's really interesting to think about is the way we expect careers to go nowadays, as comparably to separate eras. I think you're going to see a lot of these guys play into their 40s. Not
Mm.
necessarily Kyle Lowry, not necessarily him, but LeBron, obviously a freak.
Yeah,
He's
because
going to play into his
Kyle
40s.
Lowry's never been first team all body.
No, him
He's
and
a
Paul
beefy
Pierce,
boy.
bro. Him and Paul
Yeah,
Pierce can go hang out. They eat on the weekends together,
yeah, they're
man. Him
eating
and Paul.
good. They're eating good for
They
sure.
got the
They
fat ass
probably,
special.
yeah, they probably got an old lady at home whipping up some fire. But yeah, man. So I don't know. So Kyle Lowry's under contract to come back next year, barring unexpected. He's coming back next year.
I think that's right, yeah. And then I think
And
you're right. You made a good point about Siakam. I think if he had come in and really been in good shape in
I mean,
terms of,
he would have got broken off. He would have got extended. He would have been the future, right? But
yeah,
right
absolutely.
now, if you're the GM of Toronto, I mean, are you trying to put all your eggs in the Pascal Siakam basket? I don't think that's necessarily what I'm trying to bet my future, my franchise on at this point.
Yeah,
I think Siakam's looking like a real good third option.
I
On
think
a,
so too. They actually extended him in the offseason, so they've committed over 130 to him million.
over
But he could,
5 years.
yeah, over 5 years. But I think he's definitely a guy that you could see get moved. It just
That's not
depends.
that much nowadays, bro.
Yeah,
What
it's
is
not.
that? That's
It's
like
about
20,
30. It's about 30 a
30.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
guys are making. I mean, the max is up to like 48 a year, right, or something.
Yeah.
So that's not. I remember 20 used to be the max. You know what I'm saying? But it
Yeah.
ain't. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
where it's a different time now. They could. Yeah, I don't know about Siakam moving forward. I think he's nice. I don't think he can be the best player on the team for sure. If they,
No, hell no. I
but
think
the,
the
but
thing
they're in
that
the weird scenario now where they're not going to have a high draft pick, and then no free agent really ever goes to Toronto.
yeah,
So it's like I don't know. Are they back to being like above average Toronto again? You know what I'm saying?
it'll be interesting. The big thing for them is going to be Van Vliet. I think he's going to be moving on.
Oh yeah. Oh,
He,
you think
he's
he's
yeah,
moving on?
I think so. He's going to get paid, and they're not going to be able to afford him. He's
Ooh.
on the tail end of his. Looks like this last season he was at 9 million. I mean, he's going to hit probably up into the low or high 20s if I had to guess per.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
somebody will
yeah.
sign him. I mean, New
I
York will
wonder
come
who
around and be like, "Yo,
you
we'll give you
think the
35
Knicks.
per." Yeah. I think
Oh,
even
that's a super Nick move.
it would, man. And they're gonna expect
That's
him to
a
be
Nick
like a
move.
top point guard in the league, and it's just like, look, man, he's not that. And even he would say so, but I don't
Yeah.
know, man.
Oh man. Ah, that's interesting. Where's he gonna go? He's a. Where would he fit good with? Like every team has an all-star point guard. It feels like.
Man, that's a good question.
That's a tough one.
If I was thinking about it and if I could afford it, if he's trying to go to a contender, I think that maybe the Clippers is not a bad spot for him. I think
How
that
would the
maybe
Clippers afford him?
that's a good question. Like I said, they may have to make some moves with some other guys on the roster. That's the thing. Free agency and trades are so different, man, and it's complicated because right now, like a team
But
that's got the space isn't going to sign him. Like Miami doesn't need him. They've got Dragic and Dunn and Chris Dunn or none. I don't know. I really don't know off the top of my head. Maybe,
there's not a big market for guards. That's how like Utah or Conley ended up in Utah.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
like Memphis has Ja. Like every team either has a guy or a guy they hope becomes the guy. Like
Yeah.
Sacramento right now is balls deep on Fox, even though he would be an upgrade over Fox. They're not trying to send that message that they're all in on Fox.
Hmm.
And then like I don't know, maybe I guess like a Phoenix or like because it's I guess because I can't figure out. I don't think Phoenix can figure out if they want Devin Booker to be the point guard or not.
No, they've got Rubio running their as the point guard, who I like this year. I think
Yeah,
Rubio knows exactly what he is. He's not
yeah.
like the worst defender anymore, and he's not going to, force up bad shots, and he's going to make the right play. I thought Rubio was an awesome addition for them. But, I mean, Van Vliet is an upgrade. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's definitely a little bit more of a volume guy as opposed to that. So how
I
does
don't
that
know.
look with Booker next to him?
With Booker, I feel like that's too redundant, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Who needs guards nowadays? Like the Thunder
It would be
have
sweet
their
to see him
guards
is
where
Dallas. Dallas.
with Luca.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good one. I like that. I like that.
If
I
they
mean,
can
it's better
afford
than
him, I
anything
think it
else.
would be good. If they throw somewhere between 20, maybe 22 to 26 at him per, I don't know. I have no idea what their salary cap looks like, but Dallas would be a good fit because he's not going to be a guy that's expected to match Luca's volume, but he can still
You're
hit the clutch
right.
shot and be
And
there in
he's
the
so
fourth.
different from Luca. He's so
Yeah.
different. He's good off the ball.
Hmm.
And Luca's gonna have the ball a lot. I like that. I like that a lot. I like
I
that
think
a
that would
lot.
be a
Keep
good
an
one.
eye out.
Yeah.
Let's keep an eye and see if
Fingers
that old
crossed.
P Murray prediction hits bank.
Yeah.
For sure, man. Let's keep it pushing to the 76ers. And this is a weird one, right? I mean,
Fucking
on what
tragedy.
like I feel like certain people would kill to be the GM of the Sixers right now, and certain people think they wouldn't touch that job with a 10-foot pole.
That's me. Hell no. I
Mm,
would not want to be near it. I think I think that on paper they are as good as you could imagine. But the combination of three things: Brett Brown not being a very good coach,
and
as
he's out
I,
now, right? I
he's
think
done,
he's
so
out.
that
Yeah.
helps them. But Ben Simmons injuries, and then Embiid's just inability to commit to getting himself in great shape and being as good as he can be. I think that combination is it's detrimental to what they wanted to build, the process and
The
everything that they
process
tried to
is
put together.
over.
But it's a wrap,
It's
done,
a wrap.
capital D,
Process is
done.
over.
Yeah, it's done. And
So I think there's a few interesting things to note here at the Sixers. I thought conventional wisdom, most hoop fans in the hoop analysis, everybody thought either Embiid or Simmons, one of the two was gone.
mhm,
It wasn't working. You got to reshuffle the deck, try
right, which
something
is
else.
how it always goes, right?
But it seems to me through statements they've made and through their firing of the coach, because you know how this goes. Either the coach gets the blame or the players get the blame. It's not
Yep,
both. It's not both. So they're
never.
essentially scapegoating the coach, which I'm not saying I'm the biggest Brett Brown fan, but I'm just saying like it seems to me the organization is sending the message that they're keeping both players and that the coach was the problem and maybe somebody in the front office was the problem and they're gonna run it back because like typically they don't trade or fire the coach and like blow up the organization like all at the same time, or maybe they
Hmm.
should. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great point. You saw that kind of with Oklahoma City a while back with Scotty Brooks. You know, they just said, "Hey, you're gonna be the sacrificial lamb. We're gonna try to run this back, even though it may not work because of the personnel." Um,
Yeah, I
and
hate that type of decision making. I feel like
uh,
good organizations don't make decisions like that. That's like a mark of a poor organization.
Totally agree. And I think, like I said, on paper it looks good, but sometimes it's culture based too. You know what I mean? And so, if Joel Embiid is playing, in San Antonio or Miami, he doesn't look the way he does right now because his
Right.
potential is so fucking high. Like he could potentially be like some Hakeem Olajuwon potential,
Yeah.
but he just doesn't commit from a body standpoint and from a leadership
I
standpoint.
feel like from a
It doesn't.
game plan standpoint, he just
Yeah,
doesn't like establish himself in the post enough. He doesn't
shooting
work the
threes.
elbow enough. He just it's more of a want to thing, right?
Yeah,
I think it's definitely like an above the neck issue,
yeah, that's exactly right.
or a heart and balls issue, one of the two.
Yeah,
And man, I think in a perfect scenario, I don't want to say perfect. Perfect scenario is long gone. But what I'm saying is, I think what I would do, it'd be controversial. I think I would trade Embiid, get something back. And I think in a perfect scenario for Ben Simmons, he's running the five playing like Jokic. Kind of like
okay.
what you were saying. Because imagine what you were saying about Giannis running the five, but Ben Simmons is like 30 times better passer than Giannis. So like I really think it would be Jokic-esque if Simmons was running the five, because the will Ben Simmons learn how to shoot experiments over.
Yeah.
They can throw that in the same mass grave with the process like slogan,
Yeah.
and man, take that dog out the pasture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
It's a wrap.
it's a wrap. He's not. So that's what I'm saying. So he's 6'10". He's not a guard anymore. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, dog. Like I know maybe it's an ego thing. You were drafted as a point guard, whatever. You're a power forward now. You're a center now. You're a
Yep.
big. You're a
You need to
big.
operate out of the high post. You're not going to be running the pick and roll all the time. You
Yeah,
can, and you can run it with other guys, but
or
your
like run dribble
offense.
handoffs like Jokic, and
Hmm.
then or establish post presence and pass out of it. I don't know, man. I think he's not a point guard. I think this is Ben Simmons a point guard. I think we have an answer. I think it's no.
Yeah. And but that's not necessarily a bad thing because the NBA now has moved so far away from like true positions. And so like a Jokic, they run so much of their offense through him and
Yeah,
kind of that combo between him and Jamal Murray, like you said, a lot of handoffs and stuff like that and high post movement. And so, but the problem is they fucked their whole roster up by not thinking that in the first place. And now they have kind of a problem is like Embiid
yep,
and Simmons, for them to be both great, like they can't play together. And
yes,
so what they should have done is kept Simmons and surrounded him with shooters and just
yep.
all over the place. But now you've got like 250 million committed to Al Horford and fucking Tobias Harris.
That's a joke. That's
Oh,
that to me.
bro.
That's why the GM needs to go.
Yeah.
Like, and I
Elton
like
Brand.
Tobias Harris, but not at that price tag.
Hell no. I don't
Like,
even know if I like him at half of that. And
no, no.
Horford especially, bro. He's like worth a quarter of that. You know what I
But
mean?
yeah,
And
boy, Horford was on those old Budenholzer teams we
uh,
talked about. Like that's how long he's been in the league.
I
He was
know.
with Joe Johnson and the boys.
Yeah, he came out of
Fucking
college with Joakim Noah, you
yeah,
know?
man. Like, and they're paying him. Like, what are they expecting him to be? Like, I guess in their perfect best case scenario, he's their starting power forward, right? I guess
Yeah,
because
but on
Embiid's
that
the
team,
center.
yeah.
Like,
But
and Horford can shoot. But yeah, it's a shit show. That's like like an auto draft 2K roster too. Like just
yeah,
like a shittily composed roster and like
you look at these teams that win championships, Dom, and it's frustrating. It's like, okay, on paper, you can combine all sorts of great players, like you said, like a 2K roster. Look at the Thunder a couple of years ago with Russ, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony. That's going to get asses in seats. There's no doubt about that. But you look at teams like the Spurs that have won a championship. Those guys didn't have a ton of dudes where you look at the team, you're like, oh, yeah, Manu Ginobili, he's 36, but yeah, he's hitting game winners and fucking you up with that lefty still.
yeah.
And sometimes like that's how you got to do it. And constructing a team and blowing the bank out for high level guys that you're essentially getting bluffed into signing the max contracts isn't isn't the way to win. That ain't the process.
No, and like yeah, man. Like I'm honestly starting to notice a trend and you can look at like Wiggins and Towns, and you can look at Embiid and Simmons. Like those, you kind of don't. I don't want to say you don't want your draft picks to hit, but like because there's this weird scenario in the NBA. They come out when they're 18, 19, right? So
Hmm.
their rookie deal's done by 22. So say they made an all-star team or whatever. They've played really good, rookie of the year or whatever. They've hit the little milestone X, Y, and Z that says they demand a super max. But they haven't developed enough yet because they're only 22 to where they're gonna like go be a guy, the guy. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So
Hmm.
so it's weird. It's like a lose-lose scenario if you're drafting one or two because it's like I don't know. That's what happened with the Wiggins contract and the Towns
Hmm.
contract. It's like they're good enough for their agent to prove they deserve X amount of dollars, but they're not good enough to like be the best player on a championship, and they've never even made the playoffs yet because
Yeah.
they've been on a tanking team because they were the
Yeah.
number one overall pick. It's like this damned if you do, damned if you don't type of scenario in a way.
Yeah, you're so right. And like I said earlier, loyalty will kill you in professional sports. And with what blows me away is that you don't see it more often. Is you see like guys that'll get to a point where like they're probably in some markets worth a max contract, like you said, Andrew Wiggins or Karl Anthony Towns. Why not fucking trade him? Why not trade him prior to extension or do a sign and trade so that you're not stuck with the money? But he lets like it's just the same as like letting a
Well, see,
guy play a
Wiggins,
season
I
and
agree. Wiggins, I agree with, but like with Towns, let's not forget. I think the year before Towns signed that extension, there was like the whole GM poll of like which player would you build
yeah.
around, and everybody picked Towns.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think it
like
was after his
hindsight.
rookie year.
Yeah. So like hindsight's 2020, but like at the time they thought, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? They were getting now the Wiggins one was a little more debatable. I don't think anybody really thought I don't know what they were thinking giving Wiggins. I don't know how much they gave him close to
yeah,
200 million or some shit. They gave him a
yeah.
fuck ton, and
Insane.
he's making like 27 or 28 per. It's nuts because he's on the Warriors right now,
Yeah.
and
And for all we know, he could come out this year before the trade deadline and fucking earn it and then get moved. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that's how that works.
yeah,
And
but I'm just as far as hitting on them high draft picks can really be a
yeah,
double-edged sword. It really can.
yep.
Like because I'm trying to think who was there is there a team who drafted a guy top that hit that won a championship for them? When's the last time that happened? Like
I
obviously
mean,
back in the day, Jordan and them boys, but I'm talking like in our lifetimes because LeBron didn't win a championship for Cleveland.
no, yeah, right
Uh,
off the bat, no. I
Melo
mean,
didn't in Denver.
D Wade was top five and he won with Miami right away.
That might be the
Uh,
one.
Tim Duncan was number one. He won right away. I'm trying to think of some other number one guys. I mean, KD was number two. He didn't win with Oklahoma City, but he was definitely,
Yeah, but
you know,
that's like two teams later though.
yeah, you're right. I mean,
Yeah,
with their own respective team, it's
it's
very few and far
rare.
between. Yeah,
That's why
it's really,
that tank and trust the process shit really was flawed from the jump.
yeah, because too, like if you're going to create a multi-year process, I mean, who knows? I mean, you think about it. Think about Zion, probably the most, incredible prospect just from a media everything standpoint,
Yeah,
maybe of our life, probably since LeBron.
yeah, probably since
And
LeBron.
then in the next year, the best prospect in the fucking draft is maybe Lonzo Ball, maybe we don't even know. James Wiseman, you have no idea. So if you're trying to base multiple years on a potentially almost $1 billion franchise, and then you fucking are playing splitting hairs in a year between Zion and Lonzo Ball, that's scary, man.
Yeah,
You're really taking a risk.
no,
You're really
yeah.
taking a risk.
I think tanking culture might be kind of I don't want to say done because there's always going to be bad teams that need to rebuild, but
Hmm.
I think the whole because for a second there it was the coolest thing in town. Like you wanted to
Yeah,
tank,
yeah,
like they held the fucking Lakers tank.
yeah,
Like people like everybody was saying the Astros tank. Like for a second there was Tank City, but I honestly want to say that the Sixers and they the whole trust the process mantra they may have done more to like make no team want to tank ever again. Like I don't know.
yeah.
I think I don't know. It makes me question. I used to think it made kind of sense, but now after seeing that and what we just talked about with even if your draft picks hit, then you're stuck with these monster contracts for a 23-year-old.
Yeah,
Like it's not the move for sure.
totally.
But man, and we'll move forward to a franchise who operates pretty much the complete opposite of this, the Boston Celtics.
Oh yes, sir. Danny Ainge, he is awesome, man. They've made some mountains out of molehills too. They're
Yeah,
drafting. They got, in my opinion, they got really lucky that the Lakers just totally fucked up and drafted Lonzo instead of Jason Tatum.
yes,
So he
yes.
fell into their lap, and I love Jason Tatum. Love. I think he's gonna end up being. I was having a conversation with some people the other day and kind of got some pushback, but I think here in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to be having a conversation on who the best player in the NBA is between three guys, and I think that's going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Jason Tatum.
Bro,
I
one of
think,
my questions for you was Tatum or Luca
yeah, and I'm
moving
still taking.
forward.
I would take Luka. I still would take Luka. I love Tatum, and I think his two-way play. I think he's an incredible defender. He improves his offensive game so much. It's clear that he's trying to emulate a little bit of the Kobe Michael kind of, 2-3 guard, starting shooting guard kind of player. Like, what can he really maximize in his skill set? But Luka, I mean, just in one series and throughout this season and a little bit of last year, like, holy shit, that guy is
He
so good.
controls the whole game like a
Yeah,
puppet master.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Jason Tatum is part of the game, an important part of the game. But when Luca's in the game, it's Luca's game. It's like this
Yeah,
weird ability to control the tempo, the ball handling. I agree to a certain extent. I could see Tatum's like body holding up longer and shit like
hmm
that. Like maybe having less injuries, like being more durable, which may lead him 15 years and now to have the better career when it's all said and done. But I do think that Luca's ability to
yeah.
impact the game it probably gives him the higher ceiling.
hmm
But if it's like I don't know, I'd probably bet on Tatum's body long term to hold up. I don't know.
Yeah, Tatum's body, and also like you said, man, he's playing for the C's, so like he's gonna have chances to win championships, no doubt. While
Yeah,
he's there, and they're gonna
good
try to do
point.
that. And with Dallas, you know, who knows? I know we'll probably get into them a little later, but a question that I would have is like they've seen the Rockets and what that can be in terms of a primary guy that has so much ball handling, like Harden. How do you not fuck that up with Luka, and
Well,
put the
I
right
think
pieces around him?
yeah, and we'll have a whole little Dallas segment, so I don't want to get too much into it, but
Yeah.
I think that everything rides on Porzingis' health,
Yep. Yeah. No doubt about that.
or
You can't.
or
That's it.
what they can get back for his contract in a trade.
hmm
Like the Porzingis contract, how that plays out, if he can be the Robin, or even if he can be the Chris Bosh, Miami Chris Bosh,
Yeah.
if he can stay on the court, I think they'll be fine. Yeah, especially if they get a Van Vliet or another star.
Yeah. I'm with you. But the Celtics, man, this series with the Heat is going to be
Yes,
so interesting,
let's talk
man.
about some current, not hypothetical
Let's do
matchup
it.
basketball.
Let's do it. Heat
Ah, who,
Celtics.
all right, let's start off simple. There's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to chew
Yeah.
on. Let's start off really basic level. Who you got in the series and how many games?
I'm taking the Miami Heat.
Oh,
I think the Miami Heat will win seven. I think that championship experience will go a little bit further with them. I think Eric Spoelstra is the most underrated coach in the NBA. I think that he deserves a little bit more credit. I know that the team he had with LeBron was so special, but something has to be said about the management of their egos and the way that
yeah,
happens as
totally.
well.
That's
So
not
I love
easy.
no, hell no. And him and Pat Riley have created a culture that only maybe the Spurs they haven't been as successful as the Spurs in terms of championships, but they've been relevant, highly relevant contenders for almost 2 decades. So I like the Heat. I think, like I said, they have guys like Andre Iguodala who doesn't play as much minutes as he did for the Warriors, but he's won a championship, knows what it takes,
Good
and I
point.
just
Good point. In this
yeah
series, Iguodala will be helpful. When
yeah
things get real tight and buttholes start to pucker,
yeah
put his ass in the game.
yeah
That's when you take out Duncan Robinson and put in Andre Iguodala.
no doubt.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
great
No,
point. It's a
yeah,
great point. And I love Jimmy Butler. He is my guy, like you said about Schroeder. I have wanted to fucking hate Jimmy Butler and just like dislike the way he is, but this season and especially in the playoffs, he has made me a believer, man.
So you know what? I bought into Jimmy Butler the minute he cussed out Anthony or Andrew Wiggins and them boys. It was like, I got to get out of here. Y'all whack.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
was shocked at first, but I was like, you know what? I trust Jimmy Butler on this one. Like I
yeah,
bet they are whack and soft.
yeah. And I even in this bubble where I think he was having a conversation with Rachel Nichols, and he was like, they were something along the lines of like, who do you think can win the championship? He was like us, and everybody was like, whoa, I don't know about that. It's like, oh well, they're 8-1 now in the fucking playoffs, and
Yeah, man. They
just beat
look.
the shit out of one of the teams that should have been there.
They're so fun to watch. Just like we were talking about on part one of this episode about the Warriors' ball movement and off the ball movement, and then just how they're fun to watch, and they make other teams look so shitty to watch. That's how Miami Heat are. They run a whole system. It's
Yes.
beautiful. It's like a machine, like different gears interweaving in to make this engine run. Like,
Oh man, it's awesome, and they have some luxuries with Hero. Tyler Hero's been an awesome pickup. That draft pick is really
yeah.
panned out. He was a hot commodity in the draft, and I know.
But a lot of people thought he was going to be good. Like I feel like he kind
Yeah,
of fell like in the draft, kind of unexplainably.
and that's how the draft can be sometimes. You'll have guys that it's like almost like, okay, he's a guaranteed to be good, but how high is his ceiling? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is he really going to be, is he a lottery guy? Which whatever. I have problems with that, but I don't get paid to be GM. So I think with Hero, Robinson, and then Jay Crowder's had a really good resurgence as kind of a journeyman. He's been good for them as well. Versatile 3 guy. And then Adebayo is just like him and Dragic
His
are like,
development is really impressive. He's what's going to keep the big man alive. Like everybody says, like the big man's dead. Like no, but it just kind of looks more like Bam Adebayo than it looks like Pau Gasol. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
totally. And, I think a championship team, every championship team needs a guy that doesn't do anything great, but does a ton of different things good and can kind of be versatile and do the dirty work stuff. So Boston, their version of that is Marcus Smart.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
he's great. Even though he's a cowpoke.
oh, he's a cowpoke and he's a flopper. But Adebayo, in my opinion, is the Heat's version of that. And he's the kind of guy that does all your dirty work, and then at the end of the game, he's got 8 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists.
Yeah,
And
Adebayo, he reminds me kind of like a Montrezl Harrell, but like a 6'11" version. Like he can actually guard the bigs. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can do all of like the small big type of things as far as movement and quickness and guarding and switching and shooting even a little bit. But I mean, he has the size to deal with the bigs and be a true big. Yeah, he's been really impressive. So you think maybe Bam Adebayo is the X factor? You think maybe? I think that it's without a doubt the Celtics have the advantage on the wings, even though as much as I love Butler. But you think that Bam Adebayo's post presence over a guy like Theis is going to be maybe the X factor linchpin of this series?
I think that matchup definitely. I definitely love Bam Adebayo over Tice. Tice has been good. I think
He's been
he's
really
kind of.
good for
I
what
like.
he is.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And for what
yeah.
they for the low, I think he's a second round draft pick for what they've squeezed out of him. Definitely good, but definitely outmatched against a guy like Adebayo. I think that's fair to say.
For sure. And then I think another matchup that's going to be critical is Dragic and Kemba Walker. I think Kemba
Well, I wanted
Walker.
to talk some Kimba with you, bro. I wanted to talk
Yeah,
some Kimba with you, bro. So
bring it on.
this is how I'm gonna phrase this question, man. Kimba Walker, disappointment or good teammate? Because the low numbers, I feel like he's an easy target. Is he fitting in? Is he blending in, or is he underachieving, underproducing? Which of those? Because you kind of gotta pick one. You kind of can't have your cake and eat it too. I feel like where are you leaning on that?
I think he's a good teammate. I think that's definitely true. I think he provides a little bit of a balance to maybe what Tatum and Brown are is they're a little bit younger. I think despite his lack of kind of success in Charlotte, he's definitely kind of has a built-in presence that kind of stemmed from his time in college as well. So I think he's a really good teammate.
He's a leader.
He's a leader, exactly. And I think that despite Tatum and Brown being definitely their guys, they're still 21 and 23 years old.
Like
And
we were talking about, they need that older guy that you can't have the
exactly.
blind leading the blind.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
love
no, I think he still feels that role.
Yeah. And, the other side of that, like you said, a disappointment. I think he's underachieved, but I think a lot of that can be stemmed from two things. I think injuries, huge. I think he's still playing not at 100%. And I think we also have to remember, like, in a league that like has really come into like the expansion of the wing player and bigger players, he's so small. I think we forget how
Tiny.
small he is. And it's not like he's Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry small. Like he's probably like 6 foot to 6'1" and sub 200 pounds easily,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
in that 180 range. So he's taken a ton of beatings, and playing against Miami, they're going to push him hard. They're really going to try to get under his skin and be aggressive with him. So that'll be interesting. And Dragic has just been dope, man. So that
I
matchup
think I
plays a lot.
think Kemba's just like driving that Ferrari. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Tatum and Brown are just these young bucks, these lions, these Ferraris, and he's just trying to fucking keep that thing on the road. And I think he's doing a pretty good job of it.
I think so too.
What do you? It's the Celtics' ability to overcome the whole kind of Gordon Hayward signing and injuries has been pretty remarkable, and I feel like it doesn't go talked about as much. I mean, they have a pretty decent amount of their salary cap dedicated to that contract,
Hmm.
getting very little ROI on it. What's your thoughts on Hayward? I mean, obviously injuries are injuries. I'm not saying he's like a bad dude, but I'm saying it's looking like a bad contract. And it's
Yeah.
like their organizational integrity has been able to like overcome that, maybe. Or the rookie
Yeah.
deals of Tatum and Brown obviously factor in.
Definitely. That's a good point too, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Hayward, like you said, injuries are unpredictable, and anytime a max player gets his ankle shattered within the first minute of a season, which he's getting signed, that sucks. And for an injury like it was, especially that's a long-term thing, it sucks too. But I think it's a testament to Brad Stevens and the culture in Boston that, look, this is a loss, but we're going to overcome it. They've shortened their rotation significantly. They're playing basically like 7.5 guys right now. Those starters are playing, averaging 40 minutes a game, which is just
Yeah, so
crazy.
I mean,
But
it's Walker, Tatum, Brown, Ice, and who else?
Marcus Smart,
And Smart, and then
and then
who's
they
coming off
bring
the
they
bench?
bring the two Williams, the two young guys, Robert
Robert
Williams
Williams.
and
Yep.
Grant Williams.
Okay.
And then they'll play the combo of Brad Wanamaker and Semi Ojeleye like maybe 10 minutes. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really it.
yeah. Ojale barely sniffs the court for
Yeah.
sure.
So that's pretty much how they roll out. And they'll basically rotate. Tice will play about right around 30. And then they'll let Robert and Grant Williams kind of give them some breathers and just give them some athletic roller bodies, basically.
Do you think that Hayward eventually gets moved, or do you think that's like an unmovable contract? I mean, I mean, I think without a doubt they'd like to move him, but who the fuck's taking that contract on? I mean, would you like to see him in OKC maybe, or like, I mean, if he needs them, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody clamoring for Hayward, especially at that price.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the further you move away from his time in Utah, the less valuable he becomes because he's just not. There's no tape. You don't really know what you're getting, even with the injuries. And like you said, the contract's difficult. I could see him. They'll play this season out, and depending on if they make the finals and say, well, we basically got here without him, they'll do anything they can. They're not going to just cut him and pay him. I think you could see him get a situation where like he's got 1 year left and they move him to like Detroit because he's just like an expiring contract they got to
Yeah,
move.
yeah.
But I think they still want to see if he can come back healthy. But even when he's played, he just hasn't looked
Where
right,
does he fit? Like, is he a six man? I mean, I guess he's a better six man than Wanamaker. I mean, but that's a
Yeah.
lot of money to pay a six man.
If you
And they're
can if
gonna
he can
have to
come back
pay
healthy,
Tatum. They're eventually
yeah.
gonna have to back up the Brinks truck for Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to pay Tatum. They're gonna have to pay Jaylen Brown. They're gonna have to maybe. I mean, I don't know what Marcus Smart's deal is, but even he's a guy that could demand somewhere between, you know, a little
15,
shy at
so
20. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, probably in that 15 to 18 range because his value is increasing every day as well. On-ball defender that can frustrate all different guys, especially in a smaller league. And man, the thing that I love about Marcus Smart that a lot of players don't have is, especially nowadays, He brings it every fucking game. Every minute he's on the court. Like,
Yes.
and I don't like the flopping. I hate that shit. And I think that it's really disruptive to the game. But he has found that balance that like a Patrick Beverley has not, and that like you can be aggressive and frustrating without like jeopardizing your fucking team and looking like an idiot. And
Yeah.
like,
He's
but
helpful. You have to
yeah,
remain helpful above all else. You have to remain helpful
yeah,
for
and
sure, man.
contribute to win. And now that he's hitting some shots, he's definitely increased his value quite a bit. But yeah, man, I like the Heat in 7. Um, I just think they've got a little bit more experience. But if the Celtics win, I wouldn't be surprised. They kind of do remind me a little bit of that Oklahoma City first go around, 2012, where they're younger and they're proving themselves. Tatum and Brown, they're starting to really break out and
Yeah.
disrupt.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, brother, I hate to do this to you, man, but I gotta take a piss real quick. You mind just talking a little Heat Celtics? Well, I'll be
Yeah,
right
man.
back.
I'll
All right,
keep it going. I'll
all right.
keep it
Thanks,
going.
brother.
It's no problem, man. Absolutely. Step out for a minute. Yeah, so we're talking here. This is Dreadful Talk. I'm Patrick Murray. I'm sitting on here with Dom Rossetti. We're in the middle of talking about Heat Celtics. Earlier this week, I put out a podcast talking a little bit about this matchup, and I just think still it's a testament to the Celtics getting here in the first place, beating a team like the Raptors. That was no easy task. I thought they were cooked, and I thought that even in Game 7 that they still had an opportunity to lose that, and they just found a way to gut it out. I think that they're going to give the Heat everything they want. I love all the matchups across these rosters. I think that each team has some advantages, and each team has some disadvantages in different spots that can kind of fit into one another. But as I've talked about, I think that the keys to the series are going to be the matchups between Goran Dragic and Kemba Walker, and then also Bam Adebayo and Daniel Tice down low. I think that'll be really interesting to see as well. So, and looks like Dom's back. We'll get
I'm
right
back.
back into this.
I appreciate you, brother, man. But yeah,
Nothing,
man.
bro.
So yeah, we were kind of examining this series kind of from the perspective of the Celtics, but let's flip the switch a little bit and talk Heat. I know we kind of quasi did discuss the Heat in the
No, that's
process,
okay. Let's
but
do it.
let's dive a little more into the Heat. They're definitely the Cinderella of these playoffs, the underdog. Which I always root for the underdog, man.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
love it. I love
Me too.
underdogs. Like I love it in fighting. I love it. I love college football upsets. I mean, I love underdogs. Like literally, if it's not my team, I root for the underdog. And I mean, by nature of that, I'm often disappointed. But man, the Heat, they've made me a believer, man. They made me a
Yeah.
believer. Them beating the Bucks. Nobody gave them any type of shot doing that. I'm sure somebody in Miami made a bunch of money on some bets there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a great number on that. Cause yeah, who the fuck thought that the Heat were gonna beat the Bucks? Nobody.
Nobody. Nobody. You make a good point, man. There's something about the underdog that's exciting, right? And as it's happening, you still are in a little bit of disbelief. But by the time they got to about Game 3, you knew that the Heat, it was done. And even after they got that kind of pride victory, the Bucks did after Giannis went down, you still felt like, okay, I mean, that was nice and it was, whatever, but the Heat were going to finish it up and move on. And they've got a lot of momentum, man. They've got a lot of momentum. And I know the Celtics coming off a victory over the Raptors do too, but I don't, even if it goes to 7, I just don't see a way the Heat don't win the series.
They just X and O people to death. Like
Yeah.
when you watch a Heat game, just like the strategy is just it's apparent. It's just like it's the pieces being maneuvered on the fucking board. You can just watch it play out before your eyes. Just the strategy, the shifts in strategy, the unconventional strategies. Just they have weird lineups they throw out there. They're just everything about it. It's different. It's like a southpaw boxer. It's just
Yeah.
like they play at a different pace. They have different style athletes. They run different type of screens. Like
I fucking
everything.
love that comparison. Whoops.
Yeah, it's just everything's coming at you from a different
There you
angle.
go.
Like yeah, just everything's coming from a different angle. Like
Yeah.
it's just different. They do things different.
That's so true. They really come at you differently. The thing that I think is unique, and I know that some other teams probably could say this too, but they legitimately have probably, I would say at least 5 guys that some are starters and some are not that could go for a 30-piece like it's nothing. Like Butler for sure. Bam
Yeah,
Adebayo could surprise you. Dragic for sure. Hero and Robinson could get hot. Even a guy like a Crowder or
yeah.
Iguodala could just get really hot, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, there's 25," and that was the MVP of the
Or
game.
even if it's not 20 or a triple double, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah,
even if it's not
exactly.
the scoring, like Crowder and Iguodala could easily get you close to a triple double at any
Yeah,
given moment.
yep,
And this even Olynyk off the bench could give you a double double
yeah.
real
Olynyk as
easy.
well. He's been in
So
there, and he's been a guy that's hit some big shots in playoff games.
and then
I
who's the
totally forgot
young
about
little
him.
point guard with like the
Chris Nunn.
linebacker number? Chris,
Is
yeah,
that who it
Chris
is? Yeah,
Nunn. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's
He's a baller. No, Kendrick
yeah.
Nunn.
Kendrick
Kendrick
Nunn. I'm
Nunn.
sorry, Kendrick Nunn. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
No, he's a
He's
baller. Man, so just we already both said that we're pretty much taking the Heat in 7 in the series. So I don't want to spend too much more time talking about that. But what I want to ask you is, conventional wisdom would kind of tell you that Jimmy Butler's not like a true one. And do you think the Heat plan moving forward to have Jimmy Butler as the one, or like obviously you've already stated that you think Giannis is staying, but I keep hearing Giannis to Miami rumors.
So the Miami rumors have definitely been circulating, and that's kind of an underlying thematic of the NBA is every offseason you're going to catch somebody in a Photoshop Miami jersey.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's true. You've seen that with Miami, and there's been a ton of talk because of Ujiri in Toronto as well that Giannis could get moved there. But Jimmy Butler. So this is so awesome that you asked me this. This is a question that I literally ask myself every single day. Like,
yeah. Every time you
can
watch the Heat.
yeah, if Miami wins a championship, are we really going to be able to live with the fact that Jimmy Butler was their number one player? Like, when's the last time that a team won a championship where we could say the guy's level of play was Jimmy Butler? And a team that I keep looking back on, their play is not the same. Their play is not the same at all. But the way the cast was put together is the Detroit Pistons that won over the Lakers about 15 years ago.
That's about as
And
close of an example as you're gonna find,
just
because the Dirk Dallas team is a terrible comparison.
yeah,
The first Heat team with Wade was a
nope.
terrible comparison. I think that's about as close as you're gonna find. I mean, I'm sure there was somebody back in the '80s or something that
Yeah.
but in
Though,
our
but that
lifetime,
Yeah, that Detroit team, they just had guys that were really good all over the place. I mean, Ben Wallace was a defensive player of the year.
yeah,
Chauncey Billups, was a guy that really was a really great point guard in the league. Rip Hamilton, all these
yeah,
guys that were
Rip,
really good, but they weren't max contract guys.
yeah.
They weren't that year they were all-stars, and I think a lot of that had to do with their team success, but they weren't long-time all-stars and anything like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
and they beat a fucking dynasty down with
yeah.
Shaq and Kobe. So I think I just a little teaser, but I know we're gonna get into this too. If the Heat end up playing the Lakers in the finals, I think it could be one of the best finals we've ever seen. Just because of all the storylines with LeBron
That-
formerly being
That's
there,
Rocky
and
Balboa. I mean,
that's
that's so
exactly
fun. That's so fun.
exactly
Yeah, man. I mean, and that's pretty much what we're both predicting, right? Because I
yeah.
mean, this is it's Heat Celtics for Eastern Conference Finals, right?
Yeah,
Or,
that's locked in. That starts 5:40 today, I think, my
hell
time.
yeah, yeah. Good looking out. And then all right, and then yeah, just I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but Pat Riley, that culture, Spoelstra, that their ability to draft in the middle of the rounds and knock it out of the park and get
Hmm.
undrafted guys like Duncan Robinson. I mean, that's the model, right? Like that's what everybody wants to be. That's the sustainability. Like I don't know. Yeah, exactly. You win a ring every 10 years, but every year you're just fine. You keep reinventing yourself. You
Yeah.
never hit rock bottom. It's interesting. It's interesting.
It's a testament, like I said, to their culture. You hear a ton about like, oh, he's a Heat guy. He's a Heat guy. They fit. You've seen it with Udonis Haslem, who's pretty much been there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Wait, but really, it started a little bit in the later '90s with guys like Zoe Morning and that
Yep.
kind of team.
Yep.
And
Yep.
he was
Yep.
kind of the first guy. Was like, this is a Heat guy. And Pat
Yep.
Riley has been with him for a long time. And I think Zoe is now in the front office too with the Heat. So it's all galvanized
They
there.
keep
And
it in the family.
yeah,
Yeah.
and LeBron bought into it, but I think long term, I don't know if that's necessarily what LeBron was about because the Heat culture came before what LeBron was. in
Yeah.
terms of priorities. So it's just a testament to franchises creating a culture that exists outside of just each season.
In a culture that's like sustainable, because
Hmm.
like I said, there's LA Lakers that can always get free agents. There's certain cities like that, but just the culture is sustainable. Like if you're like I don't know, because that it's just a sturdy foundation. It's a sturdy
Hmm.
foundation to build upon.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we'll keep it pushing to the goddamn Los Angeles Lakers, man. Fucking Hollywood.
Showtime.
Showtime, man. They gonna win it? You got them winning it?
Yeah, I do. I've been on them since the beginning, even before the playoffs. I've said Lakers. I can't bet against LeBron. I cannot bet against LeBron in a season where there's not a super team built to destroy him. And
That's
uh,
fair.
barring a major injury, or the one other disclaimer is if Anthony Davis somehow like goes into a shell, I think the Lakers are going to win because he elevates those guys on that roster just enough to make them winners. I talked about it a little bit on my podcast this week about Alex Caruso as a guy that like he's just not. I don't know, a bunch of different teams. What is Alex Caruso? But as you've seen throughout LeBron's career, he'll have these guys that like a Matthew Dellavedova that when they
Mike
need him,
Miller.
Mike Miller, there you go. Like these guys like that step up in the most opportune moments, and he's got some gifts, man. I mean, he can fucking fly and he can shoot a little bit. And I like Caruso, but the Lakers, they throttled the Rockets, which is about what I expected. Rockets pretty much didn't put up a fight after that. They're about game 3, and it just it's what it is, man. LeBron and AD, that two-piece combo is fucking
Yeah, that's
unstoppable.
a perfect combo to beat the Rockets for sure because
Yeah,
they're small enough to stay in the game, but they're obviously just large human beings.
yeah.
Definitely. And then what do you? So yeah, I was gonna. You kind of talked about it a little bit as far as going into the shell. You worried at all about like fourth quarter AD how he'd be disappearing? Um,
It's hard to say, man. I like AD has proven kind of each step along the way in the playoffs to kind of make me a little bit more of a believer. The other night, for example, in that game 5, he didn't even score a bucket until like halfway through the second quarter, and they were kicking their ass. So I think that there's ways they find out to kind of unlock him, but late in the game, I think that it's going to be important, and they're going to make it important. Teams that are going to if they play the Clippers
or if they play
or the
Miami,
or if they play Miami, they're going to
yeah,
they're going to stack up on LeBron and make
yeah,
AD beat them for sure because they know what LeBron's going to bring,
yeah.
and they're going to push AD. And I mean, he's shown his abilities and how unstoppable he can be. But coming up, I mean, the potential that he's either going to play against Bam Adebayo or the kind of lineup with the Clippers. The one thing where I could see if they end up playing the Nuggets, he's going to average about 40 on Jokic.
Oh.
Jokic, yeah, and I would love to see that matchup because as much as I love Jokic, defensively he's pretty bad.
No, that's
And
a bad matchup for Jokic, even offensively for Jokic. I
yeah,
think he would have a
yeah,
hard time operating the way he traditionally does, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Definitely the way he's been operating against Harrell, for sure. You think Kuzma's a number 3? Like both answer that, both this year and moving forward. Is Kuzma number 3?
Okay, this year, no, he is not.
Oh,
I don't think so. I think that whatever this sort of like amoeba formation of their bench is kind of their galvanized number 3. I love what I've seen out of Rajon Rondo. I love it. I think he also is a guy that like has a little bit of a chip that is like, man, I got to get this fucking ring and I'm going
yeah.
to play my ass off. It looks like he's healthy, but Kyle Kuzma, I think like what you were talking about earlier, man, I just don't know. I just don't know if he's got the stuff between the ears. You know what I mean? Like he
The
doesn't
edge.
feel, yeah, he exactly. He doesn't quite have that edge where he's like super aggressive. And he hit a game winner in I can't remember. I don't think it was in the Portland series. I think it was just a regular season game before the playoffs in the bubble where it was like a last minute like catch and shoot. But he doesn't really have like any experience like when the games are really serious. I mean, both these Trailblazers and Rocket series were what 4-1. So this next series is where he could really be asked to do a little bit more.
And
And
if you think about it, really all you can do is catch and shoot. I mean,
yeah,
you can't really face up and handle. He doesn't have really a back to the back game. Like he's kind of a tweener 3-4. Like I don't know. Like if he's not catching and shooting threes, I don't really know what he's doing for you.
He's got to be a cutter. He's got to be ways to be aggressive offensively, trying to find ways because he's a bigger bodied guy. You would think that he could get a little bit more action in terms of maybe offensive rebounds or just
Yeah, he
stuff
needs to be
cutting.
more active.
Yeah,
Just
active,
do more.
move.
Just
And I've talked about this, and I think it's been talked about time and time again. Like trust, LeBron's trust goes a long way, and I don't know if he's fully trusted by LeBron.
or should he be for that
Yeah,
matter? You know what I'm
exactly. And I
saying?
don't know if
Exactly.
LeBron's wrong for that. Exactly.
All right, and then kind of, I don't know. I think, do you think that if the Lakers win it, this is Bron's most impressive championship? I vote yes.
It's hard, man, because 2016 is really special. The way
Over
that,
over the Warriors.
yeah, being down 3-1 over a 73-9 team and winning in the way that they did is really impressive. But I think in the longevity of it, it will be a critical part of his legacy. And maybe, it would be saying that he's won a championship with three teams. It would be
Yeah.
saying that he's won a championship for the most important NBA franchise ever. It would mean that he won a title in the year that Kobe died. And it would mean that he established himself with what? That would be his fourth ring? Yeah, his fourth
In
ring.
year 17.
Yeah, and in year 17, and
Like
in a
who's been
year that he
a
led the league in assists.
who's been a lead dog at year 17? There's been guys ring chasing at 17. Who's been the lead dog on year 17? I mean,
Nobody.
nobody.
And not only that, Dom, like he's been the lead dog since the fucking minute he stepped on the court as an 18-year-old.
Well, since I was in third grade,
Yeah, yeah,
legit.
2003.
Yeah, bro, I was in
2003.
third grade when that fool's been a lead dog ever since. So that's just
Yeah.
insane. Do you think that Cavs team that beat the Warriors would beat this year's Lakers team? Like, which team do you think was better?
Oh, wow. That's a hell of a question. Um, I don't know yet. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know yet because
it kind of comes down to, are you taking 2016 Kyrie or this year AD as the Robin? I mean, I think that's kind of what it boils down. Super,
yeah.
like, could not get two more different players, but I might take Kyrie because of the between the ears shit you were talking about. Like,
Yeah. And let's not even forget, K Love was valuable. Tristan Thompson was valuable. Those are two
yeah,
guys that I think LeBron would fucking die to have right now. Um, Man, I think ask me that question if we do this again after the finals. Let's ask me that because so much can happen if they play
yeah.
the
AD's
Clippers and
legacy will be defined
yeah,
in
these next two
yeah.
series.
You're
Yeah,
right.
if they play the Clippers and the Heat and he's dominant, that's going to be really a big deal.
No, you're right, man. Hey,
Hour three.
our number three, man. We're in deep waters, brother. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, of course, man. I couldn't be happier to be here.
Hell yeah, man. But all right, man, let's talk just briefly about this year's Trailblazers team. I mean, I feel like it can be summed up in just two words, Damian Lillard, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think for a while there, we were viewing them as kind of a two-man show with Lillard in the column. But I think just the Lillard separated himself so far from McCollum at this point that it's pretty much the Lillard show, and McCollum's just essentially like a role player on the team at this point, essentially. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this year's Portland team?
a lot of fun. I think Damian Lillard elevated himself to another level again. I had him as
Yeah,
my first team All NBA point guard this season. Uh, he had multiple stretches both in the regular season where he hit. I want to say he hit 50 a couple times in a row earlier in the season, and then obviously in the bubble
in the
getting.
bubble,
Yeah, that was special. I think it's kind of
so special.
it feels like a long time ago now.
It
When they
does,
were
right?
when they were kind of the hot pick to take down the Lakers, and
Yeah.
we've gotten past that, but Damian Lillard hit some incredible shots, some insane moments in this playoffs, and yeah, he was their guy. There's no doubt, and McCollum was an interesting player. I really liked him as a role player as well. I think he's like right under that all-star level.
Yeah.
Where I don't think he'll ever make an all-star team really. He's had some injury issues, back stuff too, which is scary. But Damian Lillard was as good as it gets in the NBA at that position this season, no doubt.
Yeah, and I really think I'd love to see him blow it up and trade McCollum and try to get some like a wing back. Because the thing is, McCollum's like the same height as Lillard. They're like both 6'3".
Yeah.
And so like for them out there, like you're just starting off behind the 8 ball size wise, and like when they were younger, it was worth it because you guys just needed points. But now that the lead alpha has just asserted himself so much, I just think that the complementary piece isn't just McCollum and Nurkic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I loved Nurkic. He was fun to watch too. He had some
He had a great
big
year.
games.
He had a great year.
Yeah, perfect compliment.
They just need more, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, they do. I think I may be wrong on this, but I think Trevor Ariza opted out prior to the bubble. I think he would have helped them a little bit. He's older and definitely past his prime, but would have helped. They were just so short in depth once they got into the bubble.
Yeah.
And after Zach Collins, who was their starter at the 4, he gets hurt, breaks his ankle, I think either right before the playoffs or right into the playoffs. That was a huge loss because after that you're playing Nurkic, Whiteside, and then some Taylor Gabriel. Not Taylor Gabriel. I don't even know the guy's name. Yeah. I didn't even know he was on the roster. So that's not a place you want to be in the playoffs in the NBA when you're playing
against the 1 seed Lakers.
Yeah. If you're playing LeBron. So yeah, man, he was awesome. And I think going forward, they're going to either have to he's going to have to make a business decision, or they're going to have to find a way to get more out of that roster and get some more players to help him.
Yeah, it's cool. So, like, Lillard's from Oakland, like, here in the Bay Area. And it's like Lillard gets love in the Bay. It's like people in the Bay are like, oh, I'm a Warriors and Lillard fan. You know what I'm saying? It's like
that's so dope.
Yeah, no,
I love that.
Dope. It's like people in the Bay, like, low-key kind of root for Portland. I mean, they're in the same division. So, like, obviously they don't want to see them beat the Warriors. But definitely, you know, Lillard and the Portland, you know, they get more attention here than pretty much the other 28 other teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
His story is dope too. His story is so cool.
His real dope. He always puts on for Oakland. I love his music. Like, I legitimately love his music. Like, I have it in my Spotify just mixed in with my other music. Like, his music is dope.
I honestly haven't given him a chance. It's not out of any lack of respect. I just get stuck in my ways with my music. But as from what I'm aware of, he's as good as it comes in terms of the athlete doing rap thing.
Yeah, like it's good enough to where it doesn't sound like an athlete rapping. Like, I'm not saying it's like you know, J. Cole good or anything, but I mean, he has some songs that are like legitimately fire, and he has some collabs. Like, he's collabed with Wayne a few times.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's like it's legit. Like, the production quality's there. Like, it doesn't just sound like, you know, like, I don't know if you've heard Le'Veon Bell shit, but it's
nah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't rush to cop that one anytime, you know, too quick. But yeah, Lillard can spit. So I like him as a man. He gets mad love here in the Bay. I actually really like his shoes. His shoes are like slept on Adidas shoes. Just a big Lillard guy. I doubt Portland ever gets it right. I mean, but he's doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down that he wants to stay in Portland. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on up there. Like, I don't know, maybe, but regardless, one of the most entertaining players in the league, and I definitely want to touch on them briefly.
For sure.
But we'll keep it pushing to the very just enigmatic Clippers. What are they? How good are they? Are they the best team in the league? Are they going to get beat by the Nuggets? What the fuck is going on in the other Los Angeles team?
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see. The question you just asked. Number one, are they the best team in the league? No, they're not. Even on paper, they're not. I don't even think they're the best team in the league. But tonight is the biggest moment outside of LeBron in the NBA in a long time. Probably, I don't even know how to really mention how important this is going to be if the Clippers lose this game. If Clippers lose to the Nuggets tonight, it's probably the most disappointing season I don't even know how long. I think it's just that important. And I think because of so many storylines, obviously with what you've set up with them really jeopardizing their future to win now with Paul George and Kawhi, and that's just them as a franchise. Steve Ballmer, new owner, put all this money into,
All chips in.
yeah, all chips in, building a new stadium, all these things. Doc Rivers, his legacy, he's been down 3-1 with the Clippers before and lost. And could this happen again? And then you take into account the players, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Paul George, if he loses this game, will
History of coming up small.
history.
Of coming up small.
Yeah, with now 3 franchises. And then Kawhi Leonard, who is no longer kind of in the second tier, really good champion, but not all-time great. He's now on that level. He's won 2 championships.
Two different teams.
2 different teams. His performance with Toronto last year will go down as one of the more special seasons in the NBA.
2 Finals MVPs, right?
Yep, 2 Finals MVPs. And if they lose, he'll now have that pressure that Kobe and LeBron both faced in bad losses. And how do you return from that? What does it mean for your future? You now have a chip on your shoulder. And what does that mean for you in terms of the pressure?
So I might sound a little Skip Bayless-ish here. Forgive
Bring
me,
it.
but
I love it. Come on.
So what I'm saying is, I think that what's going to happen if the Clippers lose is that the Paul George becomes Kevin Love as far as like the blame man, the fall guy. I don't think it's going to damage Kawhi's legacy. I think that LeBron set that playbook up for deflecting blame, and I think Kawhi is going to follow that. Like, stick to the script, memorize the lines. Shout out to Lil Wayne. I think that I think LeBron wrote the script. I think Kawhi is going to follow it if they lose, and he didn't have help, and playoff P came up small, and who the fuck is Zubac and fucking You know what I want? Just what runs through my brain when I watch the Clippers, what bit them in the ass in the trade, that they may be able to have gotten away with not giving, or maybe not, but they miss Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They miss him so much.
Yeah.
Just in how that offense flows, and another shot creator, another playmaker, another defender that can defend guards and wings. They miss SGA a lot, which is because he's a very good player, and we see how much he helps the Thunder. We already kind of got into that. But when I watched this year's Clippers team, I'm like, they thought they could get away without what SGA brought to the table, and I think that they're being proven wrong.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too. I don't think that they were quick to give him away. I think that was something that was probably the last piece of that trade with PG.
Yeah, Presti got that one.
Yeah, he did, and that was
that's a big one.
Hell of a trade.
Big one.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's important too. Like, we see these teams. Kawhi Leonard was great last year, but I don't know if he wins that championship without Kyle Lowry. And having a point guard that can control the flow of the offense is critical. And look, Kawhi Leonard is special. Do not get me wrong. I think he's, as good as it gets. And late in the game, he can create for himself so well. He does. I am not comparing him to Michael Jordan, but he can do his game. That mid-range creativity. He can get to the basket. He can hit a 3, but he doesn't take bad ones.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
It's a throwback.
Yeah. And so what I like about him, that's good, but they don't have somebody that will control the pace of their offense very well. And, Pat Beverly comes in and he's like a liability offensively. Like, he's the last guy I want touching the ball, man. You're a fucking nuclear bomb.
And that's the point guard. So that's like an oxymoronic statement.
Yeah.
How can you have a point guard that you don't want touching the ball?
Yeah.
Like, that sentence shouldn't exist. Like, that's like a hard sentence to even formulate because it makes no fucking sense. Like, that's like having a quarterback you don't want touching the ball. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't. You know what they need? They need their version of Kemba Walker.
Yeah.
Like they remind me a lot of the Celtics in their roster construction, because like the 2 wings, Brown and Tatum, Kawhi, PG. It's kind of roster construction is kind of similar in a way. The Clippers have a more expensive version of it.
Yeah.
And
for now, at least.
And I'll probably good point. And I'll probably take Brown over PG at this point, but that may be revisionist history. But like what I'm saying is, I think that's what's making Celtics work. But I'll say this: I think if the Celtics lose to the Heat and the Clippers lose to the Nuggets, I think that two all-star wing roster construction trend
Could be
may
done.
fucking it could
Yeah.
be like the new Wildcat. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't know that I think you need a guard, whether that's a one or a two, to go along with your wing. Like what LeBron always. But see, LeBron is almost the exception. I think a lot of teams are trying to make their wings the point guard, a la LeBron, but they're not LeBron. Like Giannis is not
Yeah.
LeBron. Kawhi is not LeBron as far as the passing, as far as the point guard, as far as the tempo, as far as controlling the maestro. You know what I'm saying? The
Hmm.
puppeteer. Like they don't have just that their stranglehold on the game. LeBron's the only wing I think that can do that. If you call Luka a wing, I guess throw
Yeah.
him in there. But you know what I'm saying? Like these teams are constructing these rosters with, we have two $30 million wings, so therefore we don't need a point guard. And I think, which the Celtics have a point guard in Kemba, but I think that the Celtics are getting exposed for like this that oversight of thinking just because you have elite wings that you don't need a point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think the Clippers, like you said, they need somebody to control the pace.
The pace.
And the pace is so critical, and because they have guys, you think about the way their roster is set up. You have Pat Beverly, who is, like I said, a liability in a lot of ways offensively. Kawhi Leonard, who's going to get his every single night. He's going to
Yeah.
he's good for 30 and 10 every night.
Yeah.
Paul George is a guy that he's going to be off ball a lot, even though they use him as kind of their guy that brings the ball up too much, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
he's so
that's an
much
awful
better.
strategy.
Yeah, he's a much better player off the ball
Yep.
and catching it off, handoffs and screens than he is really delivering and pacing the offense. And then you have Marcus Morris and Zubac. And those aren't necessarily guys that you're running offense through either. You've got a dunker and a
No.
guy that's probably an undersized power forward. So, and then off the bench, guys like Shamet, Reggie Jackson, Lou Williams even is a guy that like they have used typically to dictate their pace, but the Nuggets have fucking handled them. I've talked
Yeah.
about this in this week's podcast. I was blown away when I was doing some research. I couldn't believe this, Dom. In the regular season, Trez Harrell and Lou Williams together averaged 36 a game. And in
Yeah.
the playoffs right now, they're averaging 20. That is the story for the Clippers right now.
It is. Trez
Yeah.
is coming up small, and Lou Wills. Yeah, he hasn't found it since he's been in the bubble, since he
Yeah.
couldn't get no more lemon peppers.
He's hurting.
He's hurting for
Lemon
them
pepper
lemon peppers,
Lou.
man. Yeah, lemon pepper Lou, man. He's hurting for them thighs and breasts, man. I feel him. It's tough. It's tough in the bubble. You know that
Oh
that
yeah.
cell. He's like, I don't know. He's like the opposite of a boxer, man. You can't go in there with full nuts. But but man, yeah, the Clippers. This series is so interesting because it's like if the Nuggets win, it cements them as like, okay, they're no longer arriving, they're here.
Yeah.
Like they're a player.
Yeah,
Like
conference
they're
finals is no joke against the Lakers.
and then especially how that series go if they push them to 7 or whatever,
Sure.
but then if the Clippers lose in the second round, it is one of the biggest like super team blunders
Yeah.
in recent history for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Because I remember before the season started, it was like, oh, Clippers or Lakers, like it was just foregone conclusion.
Right. And it was
Go,
kind of that discussion all season long, man. And the Lakers had stretches where they were certainly looking like the best team in the NBA. They kind of had their shit together. But the Clippers, and I know some of that could be attributed to injuries and, in my opinion, some roster management stuff. But they just never had a stretch where they won like 11 in a row and were kicking somebody's ass on a Sunday nationally televised game. And it was
yeah,
like, okay,
they looked beatable at times. Like,
beatable. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And not on some kryptonite shit either. Like, beatable.
yeah, like flawed in a way.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
for sure,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, no doubt, man. All right, so let's do a little dive on the Mavs. We've talked about them a few times. Obviously, we're gonna jerk off Luca a little bit, but obviously it starts and ends with Luca. They got the ownership cube and everything, but I think they gave the Clippers all they wanted.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I was listening to your podcast, and you were saying, and I don't know if you want to take this back or whatever, you were saying that Luka was the best player in the playoffs, not named LeBron. You
Uh,
still feel that way?
After that shot, I felt that way. He was doing some things that were crazy, man. And I thought after that shot, because it got to 2-2, um, like we just talked about, Clippers were vulnerable, and I
Yeah.
think Porzingis was still healthy. And I'm like, fuck, man, if this is how he's going to play, I mean, like you just said, the two wings, defensive prowess, and I think he had like 37, 19, and 16, and then a 30-footer game winner. I mean, yeah, I felt that way at the time. And, at probably not now. I think Kawhi handled that business, and with Porzingis going down, that hurt them too.
I still
Um,
I still want to say though that if Porzingis doesn't get hurt, then I
it's a
think they probably win
series.
that series.
Yeah, I think both teams healthy, and I think I remember he got knocked out of a game for some bullshit
Yeah,
double
that
tech
that
situation.
bullshit double take. Yep, that was bullshit
Yeah.
for sure. Man, I think that's a microcosm for just the next 10 years of the Mavericks. Like, what's up with Porzingis? What is Porzingis? Is Porzingis that guy? Is he Amari Stoudemire? He has a few good years and then just can't quite get healthy, and everybody keeps holding their breath, waiting for it to happen, and it just
Yeah,
never does.
I
Is
like that
he?
comparison. I like that
Do you
Stoudemire
know what I'm
comparison.
saying?
That could
Like, I
really
don't
be the
know.
version of Chris, like a worse version of his career. Because I mean, Stoudemire really played at a high level, but he just he would get hurt
The
or
injuries started
yeah,
piling up, and then
hmm
he got that big contract in New York and never
yeah,
quite lived up to it. And I don't know, because like when Luca and when Porzingis, I mean, when they're firing on all cylinders, your jaw drops and you're like, well, this is the next 5 years of the NBA right fucking here,
yeah,
right here,
yeah,
like right here, like it. But then it's like, can he get right? Like, I mean, he's 7'3". Like, there's a certain when you're 7'3", I do believe that it like sacrifices the integrity. You know what I'm saying? Of the
yeah,
structure of like your ligaments and joints, like the history of 7'3" guys with long, healthy careers is pretty goddamn short.
yeah,
Like, so, but man, god damn it, when they're together, they're the perfect player, like the perfect pair. Like,
yeah.
if
Compliment.
you could create my player to go alongside Luca, it would be Porzingis.
Yeah, totally. Uh, and even their roster, like I think the rest of those guys kind of overachieved a little bit in that series. But even like, okay, Seth Curry, I think he led the league in 3-point percentage this season, and he
I
had
don't
some
think
big
he's
games.
overachieving. I think he's a baller.
I think you're right. I think I rescind what I said. I think some of those guys are just better than we think.
Well, they
And
got hoopers, like even like Jalen Brunson can hoop. He
yeah,
was like in the running for Rookie of the Year a few years back.
yeah,
Jalen Brunson can hoop. They, I don't know, they don't have the deepest bench, and that Powell guy
yeah.
got hurt. That hurt their bench
That
a
killed
lot.
them. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
but
like
he
their
was a good
roller dunker
player.
spot. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so true.
and he
I
can
fuck
hit
with
threes.
Boban. I fuck with Boban.
Boban gets helpful minutes. Obviously,
Yeah,
there's a lot of times when he's not playable. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Against smaller teams and three shooting teams and things of that nature. But
yeah.
Boban's a good player to have off the bench at a low price for sure, for sure. Um, so the other name besides Miami that I keep hearing for Giannis is Dallas. And I gotta be real. That makes me tingle a little bit. The thought of Giannis, because he doesn't. Then it's clear cut. Luca brings the ball up court. They have a spot up shooter somewhere. Porzingis is a great shooter and plays the five. And then Giannis is just slashing and rim running and playing defense and running transition. And all those flaws in his game get erased because they have shooters around him, they have ball handlers, and he can just physically dominate and run wild like a freaking gazelle.
Man, that in a perfect world, I think that would be the most ideal opportunity for
If I'm Giannis, I'm
Giannis.
hitting up Cuban.
Yeah, I think that'd be dope. I think they would be really great compliments for every reason you just said. And Porzingis' contract is probably pretty close to being up there in terms of a trade piece, because he hasn't signed the extension yet. But
I wouldn't mind seeing him keep Porzingis though. Like
yeah, I mean, if you can,
those three. I mean, that's betting a lot on his health, but that's a freakish three.
oh yeah,
Who matches up with that?
nobody. No,
And especially in 5 years, who matches up with that when LeBron's retired? Because right
definitely
now,
nobody.
Davis and LeBron could
Hmm.
kind of match up, but 5 years from now, whenever they're all like our age,
Yeah.
fucking, they're all the babies.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I'm saying? Giannis is a
Yeah.
little older, but yeah, in 5 years, Luka will be probably literally my age. I think he's 21. I'm 26.
Yeah.
Like, so you know what I'm saying? Who's guarding that in 5 years? I don't know. I
Nobody.
would I would love to see that. Not necessarily that I would love to see it on the Mavericks, just those players. Like the jersey,
Yeah.
the name on the chest is almost irrelevant at that point. Just seeing those guys together, I think would be really fun.
It would be awesome.
All right, let's talk a little nugs. And not my other hobby. I'm talking hoops here. We're talking so I'm caught on this teeter-totter here with the Nuggets of, do they need to develop more or do they need just more talent on the roster? Like, is it a time thing? Do they just need to let it steep a little bit, or let it cook a little bit? Do they have the ingredients, or they still need to make a trip to the grocery store? And what you thinking in Denver?
Man, it's so unique. Their roster is so atypical in the NBA for a lot of the
Yeah.
ways you were talking about because they've drafted so well. Almost every guy on their roster is a draft guy, except I think for maybe Paul Millsap in terms of guys they've drafted and developed. You take into account just off the top Murray and Jokic, and then also Michael Porter. And then on the
Yeah.
bench, you've got, Gary Harris and even the young guys like Bol.
Bo in the
Yeah.
future. I think in the future, not this year,
No, 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 no.
but 3 years from now, he could be a player.
So the thing you have to ask yourself is like, okay, if they lose tonight, does that change the way you feel about it if they win tonight in terms of
I
what they
say
do?
no because they're so young and because they're all drafted. Like,
Yeah.
none of these guys are free agents you brought to town and win now mode.
The
That's
only
what
one
makes
is
them
Jeremy
so
Grant.
unique.
Yeah. Jeremy Grant's the only
With
one. And they got him
Jeremy,
for a late first rounder with OKC, which I thought was a good trade for Denver. I think OKC could have used
he
him.
drives me nuts when I watch Denver, though, because
Yeah.
teams can just force him to shoot threes all day. We double off of him. We
Yep.
start the rotation off of Grant, just like teams did with Dort against OKC.
Yep.
It all starts, the rotation starts off of him, so the ball works its way back to him. And that's what drove me nuts when he played for OKC. I mean, if Grant could shoot not even 40, if he could shoot 33% from three, I mean, he'd be a $25 million a year player. His defense and energy and literally everything else is phenomenal.
Yeah.
His rebounding, his offensive rebounding, he gets steals, he gets blocks. I mean, he does a lot, but just when
He can't
he's on
shoot.
he cannot shoot. He's a liability.
That's a good point, man. I think if it were me, if you were asking me as a general manager, what I would say is I would continue to develop because
Yeah.
Michael
I would
Porter, Michael
He's coming.
Porter
He's
is
coming.
right now. You've got two All-Stars, and Jokic was the first team All-NBA, and I don't know if Murray's ceiling is that high. I mean, we saw it in that series with Utah how he could really get going.
I don't know
but
how I feel about Murray, man. I don't know.
he's a little bit inconsistent for me still right now. I would put him right there around Donovan Mitchell though because. Well, maybe not. I think D. Mitch is a little bit better defender because Murray doesn't defend very well. But he is a guy that can go for 40.
He can. Or 50.
Yeah.
So I think I know your answer based off your just previous answers, but it seems to me like there's this unique scenario where nobody knows, is Jokic the one, is Murray the one?
Mm-hmm.
And usually, like with Russ and KD, it's like two guys that want it, right? But
Sure.
I feel like with Denver, it's the opposite. They're two betas. Like they both want to defer, kind of. And maybe Michael Porter's that alpha, maybe, if one day. But that's what seems to be so unique to me. Because we've seen this before where we don't know who's the alpha, but it's because there's two alphas.
Yeah.
I don't remember a scenario with two betas, like kind of both deferring. Like who's the I mean, I guess they're trying to do the 1 and 1A thing, but like it sounds to me like you would lean Jokic as the one, Murray as the two, but I don't know. Yeah, talk about that a little quick.
Man, it's something I really hadn't thought about, Dom. That's a really good question. If it were me, if you're just asking me who the best player is, it's Jokic for sure. I
Like
really
if
don't
you're a
even know if
GM
it's
of the
close.
Nuggets.
Yeah, definitely. Jokic's
Okay.
value. In fact, I don't know if there's a center that I would even value more than him right now, except
Okay.
if you're including Giannis Antetokounmpo. But other than
Over
that,
Embiid? You're taking Jokic over Embiid?
oh yeah, yes,
Nice,
yes,
nice. I like
absolutely.
that take. I
For
like
so
that
many
take.
reasons. For so
Yeah,
many
for so many
reasons.
reasons. No, I get it.
Um,
I get it. I like that. But there's a lot
I'm
of people that want it because he's taller and faster and all that.
yeah,
But I like that. I like that take. I really
yeah.
do.
I like Jokic way
Um,
more. Um,
so you
I
you you build on. Yeah, I just don't. I think that they're trying to kind of force a square peg in a round hole with Murray. Like I think that the Denver's front office is like, oh, this is a guard-driven league, and
mhm.
he's our star guard. Therefore, let's build around Murray. But I feel like the right strategy is kind of zig while everybody else is zagging, and build around Jokic. I think I kind of agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But I think that the front office may be disagreeing with us. I think that they kind of want Murray to be the one just because the simple fact he's a guard
Mhm.
and it's a guard-driven league. I guess you could say. I don't know. That's the vibes I get. I don't know shit, but I don't know.
I know what you're saying. I think if they're smart, then they need to focus around uh Jokic because
Okay.
and I think on top of that with Jamal Murray, I think he's a really good complement in the way that you explained because I think Beta may be almost too strong. I think they're just really good compliments. I think Jamal Murray knows
I
like,
get
okay,
beta vibes, bro. Like I don't know.
from
I don't
him,
get.
from him, yes, from him more so than Jokic. I know what you're saying, but he also like he straight up flopped them out in that Utah series, dropping 50 spots
Yeah.
like 3 games in a row in order to win. And
No,
Jokic was
that was
getting
balling.
dominated by Gobert.
Yeah. No, that's a
So,
good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe I'm hating. Maybe I'm hating. I don't know.
but your point is valid. Your point is so valid because so often now, like we try to create a narrative and that
Yeah.
if there's two really good guys, who has to be the alpha? Think about the Celtics. That's not a conversation that's even started yet with Tatum and Brown really,
See, but
but
I think it's because it's obvious. I think Tatum's much better than Brown.
maybe you're right, and I think
But
probably
but
so.
but with Jokic and Murray are neck and neck. Like, and neither
Hmm.
one of them is like 98 overall. Like they're both like 89, 90 overall if we're talking like 2K. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
like they're both just right there. Like which
Yeah.
one's better? I don't know. It's interesting. It's fun. I don't think we've actually straight up said though who's taking it, Nuggets or Clippers.
Oh, this is something I've gone back and forth on so many times, so
Right?
many
It
times. But
like what Nuggets team shows up, right?
yeah, and who shows up for the Clippers outside of Kawhi? Because you know he's going to show up. But like this is a classic fucking moment where Paul George shows up and goes like 2 of 13 for 12 points, and they lose by double digits. Like that is like this is a perfect scenario. But
And it's just like a Clippers, like the Clippers have like a weird culture about them. Where are the Clippers gonna Clipper? Like, are
yeah,
they gonna? And then, but it's not like Nuggets have this great culture either. They're super
yeah,
wishy washy too. It's like the two flaky friends that make plans with each other. Like, will either one of them show up? Like,
yeah.
like I don't know.
It's so true. For me, honestly, at this point, I don't think any outcome would surprise me. But I think based
Gun
on,
to your head. Gun to your
yeah,
head.
yeah, I'm taking the Clippers because Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the
More
series, and
bankable, more
yeah,
bankable. I
yeah,
think so too, but it's like if I'm a bettor, I'm not touching this one with a 10 foot
hell
pole.
no,
Yeah,
hell no,
anything could happen.
yeah,
Anything could happen for
for
sure, man.
sure.
And then I just got one last and final topic for you, and it's actually kind of an interesting one. Rockets, brother. The
Ooh,
enigma,
yeah,
the fucking science experiment, the goddamn compost heap that is the Rockets. It's where people throw shit against the wall and see if it sticks, and it sticks for a certain amount of time and then falls on your foot.
oh
Um,
man, smoldering crater is what it is, man. It's the Rockets. It's over. I'll say that. D'Antoni basically said, "Yeah, I'm out of here, man.
yeah,
Before you
that
guys
was
can fire
shocking.
me, yeah, I'm gonna go and just
He
move on."
quit. He
Yeah,
quit.
but they treated him like shit, man. And like for what the cards they dealt him, and like basically when they doubled down and traded Capella, and got Covington, I can't even imagine like being in that situation and being like, so we're really not going to have a guy that is over 6'5" on this fucking roster? Like,
Yeah.
so on top of that too, like legacy wise, Harden did what Harden has been doing his entire career, which is, be a ball
Get
dominant
his.
player. And then when you get to the playoffs, like totally shy away. You know what I mean? When it matters most. Um, the most shocking thing to me about that series with the Lakers was Russ. And I know he missed a lot of time with being sick and COVID, and like that definitely seems to have affected him. But there wasn't a guy on that Lakers team that should have been able to keep up with him. And he struggled. And I think the thing with him is always going to be is the mental part, the mental aspect. It's like he gets overworked in his head, and like it just controls his game.
Yeah, man, Westbrook, man, that's another one. How on Adams, like there was a point in time where I would have literally killed for Steven Adams and Russell Westbrook,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
now it's like I'm out on both of them. Like I'm out on Westbrook. I mean, not as like a man, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like not as like a man, but just as like a basketball player, I'm out. And the rumors keep saying he's gonna get traded to the Knicks. And quite frankly, I can't believe I'm find myself saying these words because there's a point I would have freaking, you know what I'm saying, give Russ a hand job if he told me nobody wouldn't tell nobody. But like man, fucking I think that him and the Knicks deserve each other.
They are a perfect
They
fit,
deserve
baby.
each other,
They
and I
do.
and I
They
can't
do.
believe that I'm saying these words, and it feels like blasphemous, and I feel like a little dirty saying it, but like
Yeah.
at this point, Russ and the Knicks deserve each other. He can go just put on Dunk Fest and Highlight Fest and Empty Stat Fest in front of, 12,000 in Madison Square Garden of like old Knicks fans, that
Yep.
smell like tobacco and fucking still read Playboy mags. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like talking about the
Oh
glory
yeah.
days and just
Jesus.
yeah, I don't know.
They
It's a
fit.
disaster. It's a
Yeah.
disaster. It's a beautiful disaster. Yeah, I think the Rockets' fatal flaw is that they were always chasing the Warriors and trying to copycat the Warriors, but they had lied to themselves and told themselves that they were innovating. When they weren't innovating, they were like
Nah.
how China doesn't develop technology, they just steal it from whoever does develop it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that was the Rockets, like, but they were trying to pat themselves on the back as these groundbreakers whenever they were really just like riding the wake of Golden State Warriors, in my opinion. And
Totally. I think you're absolutely right. And for whatever reason, I know that they're really the analytics leaders of the NBA. Daryl Morey, to his credit, like has lived and died by that approach. But for me, the closest they ever got was with Chris Paul. And
yeah,
in that
and
series,
he is the antithesis of that free
exactly.
and layup strategy.
Exactly. And, he was something that was similar in the way that like Jimmy Butler didn't really fit with Minnesota, is like these clashing of cultures that didn't fit. And Chris Paul knew, he was like, look, I want to
Yeah.
win today. And like, I need guys around me that are going to commit to that no matter what. And I don't know if Harden is necessarily that guy in the long term. There's no doubt he's
No,
dedicated to his craft. I will never question that. The statistics prove that. But
but I
there,
think Harden thinks he has time, and Chris Paul's like, dog, I gotta win
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, exactly. And so I think although they beat Oklahoma City this season in the playoffs, that trade was so important and telling in the way that they lost. It ultimately lost to the Lakers because I mean, you saw the difference in culture this season between those two teams as well. And I think
Yep.
that in a perfect world, if they could have made it work with Chris Paul and really bought in on that instead of feeling like they needed to help out James Harden by signing Russ or trading for Russ, I think that they're in a little bit better situation. But by the time they had doubled down, it was too late. And I think D'Antoni, I mean, the rumors have been out there since the beginning of the year that he was done. So
I think
I
they
think,
just like made too many desperation moves. Like
yeah,
that's what I think the Nuggets need to avoid is like just
yes,
chasing the dragon. Like just let it steep, let it simmer a little bit. See what you can come up with. Yeah, man, I feel you. Yeah, it seems like the end of an era in Houston. Like they swung for the fences and missed. Who knows though? Because I think they've traded away all their draft picks. Who knows where they're at? I think it's a shit show moving forward.
Me too. Me
I
too.
mean,
That's
I'd
a good.
honestly
It's a
be,
benefit for OKC.
yeah, and I would be shocked if Harden finished his career there.
Me too.
Honestly,
Me
I
too.
mean, because if you think about it, he's young enough to where after this contract's over, even in 5 years, I think he'll still have another year contract in him. So
Yeah.
I don't think he'll finish his career there. I think Russ is, yeah, maybe he ends up in New York and they can just fucking be a shit show. And I don't know, him and Kevin Knox can both just have like a missed three contest or something. But
That's an interesting roster. Say they trade him over there. I don't even know what they'd have to give up to get him.
I feel like
But
not much because of his contract. I mean, they'd have to send money back, but it'd probably be some bullshit contracts, or I don't
yeah,
know.
some BS contracts. But like just hypothetical. I mean, you probably be missing one of these guys, but like Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett and Russ. I mean that in the East, who knows what that looks like.
You know what though? Like I would be worried about. Like I said, I feel dirty saying this. I've spent so many years defending Russ, but like I'm just out. Like I'd be worried about like Russ contaminating RJ with
Yeah,
like a weird, like the opposite of what Chris Paul did to SGA. You know what I'm saying? Like a
yeah,
residual effect of just
yeah,
like, and then you combine that with the already cesspool Knicks culture, and I
yeah.
just think that's. Oh, I mean, maybe not. Like maybe I'm being too harsh on Russ. Like I don't know. Maybe I've listened to too much Sports Center, but it's getting really, really hard to be in that guy's corner, man. I've spent the past decade fucking
Yeah,
heels dug in
yeah,
saying that he's not this and not that, and he's kind of made me look like a fucking idiot most of the time.
yep.
Um, you know
That's
what
the
I'm
truth,
saying?
man.
One last question for you, bro. What's your thoughts of like Harden's like ramped up defense in the playoffs? Do you think that was a narrative? Do you think that was real? Do you think that carries forward in his career? What's up with that?
I don't think it's something that continues consistently in his career. I think that he knows what he is now. I think he's kind of established that he's the best isolation basketball player in the NBA. And I think the way D'Antoni's teams have always been, they don't play a lot of defense. Now, if they bring in a different coach that's really hard-nosed, we'll see. It could be a forced trade or something like that, because I really don't think he's going to change his ways. Um, at all, really. I think the thing that's frustrating about the NBA is you see guys that clearly have the ability. Russ is another one, especially during his time in Oklahoma City. It's like they put so much effort in on the offensive side. It feels like they almost don't have enough in the tank for defense. Like they're saving energy. But for me, like look, I'm not an athlete of that caliber, so I don't know what it's like. But like Mike and Scotty weren't doing that. You know what I mean? Like these guys in
Yeah,
the past weren't. Now the game was slower. You could slow it way, way down. You know, they're averaging
yeah.
in the 80s and 90s. And nowadays it's almost in the 120s. I get that. But Russ and Harden are kind of two of the guys where it's like, dude, you guys are supreme athletes. And especially Harden, his arm length is so long and his hands are so big. It's just kind of like, how are you not serviceable on defense? You know what I mean? Like,
And
just
he
not
looked
just some,
great though in the
yeah,
well, I don't want to say great. Maybe
he
it's
made
just
some
that
big
the bar
plays.
was set so low that he made a few defensive plays and everybody's shocked. But no, I feel you, man. I definitely just wanted to kick the tires on the whole
Yeah, no,
Harden defense, man. But
it's gotten better. I'll say that. It's not like a laughing stock anymore, but I think some of that has to do with him being shamed on the fucking internet.
yeah, you're right. Like trolled into playing defense, man.
Yeah,
Good
not a good
people
place to
on
be.
Twitter doing the good work, man. But
Yeah, right.
man, dude, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I
Man, it
want
was awesome.
everybody to support your podcast today in the NBA on Spotify, on Apple, on everywhere, right? On
SoundCloud too.
SoundCloud.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, man, listen to Today in the NBA for that NBA content. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Having a little bit of trouble with the app that I use to edit my videos right now, so I've been having a little trouble getting them to YouTube, but that'll clear up here shortly. But everybody go subscribe to Dreadful Talk on YouTube
Yes,
and
sir. Dreadful
hit up.
talk.
Yep, I thank you so much, Patrick, bro. You're the homie, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it, man.
no problem, man. It was awesome. Thank you so much,
Thanks so
and
much, man.
look forward to it next time.
Yeah, much success, brother. You the man.
You too.